Looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor. Because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your flap. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Team USA fell to Team Venezuela in the WBC finale on Tuesday night by a score of 3-2, while Venezuelans in Miami, back home, and across the globe partied the night away. Team USA and fans across America were left wondering what went wrong once again after they came up short with the silver for the second straight Spring Classic. Who is to blame? How do we fix it? And perhaps more importantly, should the tournament be held at a different time of the year, as many in the baseball world are clamoring for, like during the midseason All-Star break? And before we whip around some NFL offseason news, including the Dolphins going full tank mode before the spring solstice, and preview the AL and NL Central divisions before the start of baseball season next week, it's March Madness, baby! We reveal our picks and talk about all the day one action, bracket busting action on another all gas, no brakes, wheeling and dealing, hustling and out-muscling, live Thursday night edition of Jabba and the Mouth.
A significant. They're going to have a ton of money to spend. Why not put it in one of the top 3 offensive players in the league? We're going to be looking at Aaron Judge and saying that he can't win the big game. Michael Jordan said, I played 82 games. You don't see LeBron doing that.
This is a game where you got to go perform.
I told you, Giant fans, and Saquon Barkley, at this point, I'm gonna fight them all. A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off. Taking time. Say whatever you want about Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. Really? And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Back and forth through my mind behind a cigarette. And the name's coming from my eyes. Can't get it alone.
Let's do it. You're listening to Jabba and the Mouth.
631 672 3108 is the number to call. You're listening to Jabba and the Mouth. You know who I am? They call me the Mouth. My name is Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey, executive producer, Mr. Aaron Fishman, on the board, Tommy Poop. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including Jabba and the Mouth, every single Mondays and Thursdays at 6:45 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. If everybody wants to know what happened tonight, it's very simple. Me and Speedy went over there to 495 Elite, the combine. We got a chance to meet some of the kids, some of the coaches here in Long Island, New York, as we're working on the Long Island Mouth, which is going to be built as a youth and high school programming, which we're going to go out there and promote Long Island sports here in Suffolk and Nassau County. We're going to be working with all the kids, all the coaches, all the parents, building opportunity for NIL deals for these kids, and possibly full college scholarships. So that's what we're doing. So we were out there tonight and yesterday in the cold, the freezing cold, with our butts being frozen, our hands, our feet, getting numbers, interacting, kissing babies, doing all that stuff. So that's what we were doing. So we started tonight's show at 6:45 because we were on a football field for the last, I would say, probably 3 hours. That's what, Speedy, 3 hours?
Yeah, just about that.
3 hours of time and energy, but we had a lot of fun. We can't argue about that. And I want to give a shout out to Ben and Mr. Filardi for working out and getting us an opportunity to meet the parents, the kids, and just interacting with people. And it was fun. It really was. It's just freezing. This is the time of year when you're out on a football field. If you're not moving and you're not jumping or running, you're going to be cold. And that's what we were. We were just standing. Speedy's hands were shivering. He just absolutely couldn't take the weather. So, yeah, it was one of those days. It's one of those days. A little Limp Bizkit over there. But, yeah, so we enjoyed our time over there. It wasn't raining. It wasn't windy. But it was just right, ladies and gentlemen. But anyways, we have a great show lined up for you a little bit later in the show. We will be talking to 10-year MLB reliever Juan Rincon, right? Am I right?
Rincon.
I said it right. That's what I said. And he pitched from 2001 to 2010 with the Twins, the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Rockies. Shout out to Nith, the old Nith boy in the back end, the taproot himself. And our media and our PR manager for getting Juan Rincon on the show. So we're very happy to have him on. It'll be fun. We'll get into his baseball career. We'll talk about the Guardians as the Guardians signed their big bopper for a 5-year extension. I think it was 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
4 years.
4 years. 5 years, 4 years. It doesn't matter. He will be a Guardian for the rest of his life. So we'll get into Ramirez signing back. Jose Ramirez signing back with the Guardians. So they signed their big name superstar. So the Tigers, ladies and gentlemen, Speedy, look what you're doing. Look what you're doing over there. That's when you're playing with that. That's why I keep telling you not to play with that when that happens. Work and learn how to use the controller before you screw everything up like you usually do. Anyways, let's get into it because we got a lot to get into and we're about to go. Venezuela beat the United States 3-2 to win their first ever World Baseball Classic title. Venezuela got their first run by a sacrifice fly by Mikel Garcia in the third inning. And then Weiler Abreu hit a home run in the fifth inning, both off of Nolan McLean. Eduardo Rodriguez pitched great for Venezuela, allowed just one walk, one hit, and 0 runs in 4 1/3 innings pitched. It was terrible. It was a terrible performance by the United States offense, who didn't have a single at bat with a runner in scoring position the entire game. The United States offense only had 3 hits that game, 2 of which were by Bryce Harper, including the 2-run home run that tied the game in the 8th inning. Garrett Whitlock came in to the game in the 9th inning and gave up the lead walk to Luis Arraez. This led to a pinch runner coming in and stealing second, which he was out, by the way, on a controversial call that that was upheld by the umpires after replay review. Shortly after that, Eugenio Suarez was the hero with the RBI double to give Venezuela the lead for good. The heart of the batting order for the United States, Aaron Judge and Kyle Schwarber and Alex Bregman, were a combined 0 for 10 with 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. And I'll say this for everybody out there that watched this game. And it's been a problem watching Team USA against elite pitching. But this team, and I'm not taking shots at Venezuela. Venezuela did not have elite pitching. Eduardo Rodriguez, he's a good pitcher. He's not a great pitcher. He's a major league pitcher. He's more like a relief pitcher than he is a starting pitcher in the majors. I know sitting back and a lot of people wondering who the hell is Eduardo Rodriguez, but he completely dominated the game, kept them off balance, and you saw that. Aaron Judge has been up and down throughout this tournament. He had a couple of home runs. Bryce Harper was on and off all tournament. Schwarber looked horrible in this game. Nobody. Alex Bregman was horrendous throughout this tournament. Nobody can hit the ball. Nobody. And with an elite lineup as good as Team USA, when you're talking about elite players, and everybody was calling them the dream team. And I, on my stories, when I was writing my stories, I called them the redeem team because I thought they redeemed themselves after losing against Italy, then beating Canada, and then eventually beating the Dominican Republic. And you heard Juan Soto after the game. He said that we were the better team. We showed everybody why we are the best team in this tournament, even though they lost. And to me, I'm not blaming Nolan McLean. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's not. I'm not going to blame him because he's a young pitcher. It had nothing to do with any kind of virus or sickness or whatever they thought he had. He wasn't dizzy on the mound. That wasn't the reason why these guys were hitting against him in the third inning. What was it? The third inning? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't because of that. I'm sorry. It was the fifth inning and the third inning, but it wasn't because of that. And I would say this, if there was any mistake that this team made, was not pitching Skeens in the final game. I know everybody's going to say, well, if Skeens didn't play or he didn't pitch, Paul Skeens didn't pitch against the Dominican Republic, the United States don't move on. But I beg to differ. Venezuela have been the most hottest team in this tournament. They beat Japan and they beat Team USA. They were the best team throughout the tournament. And again, you look up on the line of all these rosters, and Venezuela did not have the elite roster that they were expecting. They had an elite coaching staff. Miguel Cabrera was there. They had guys on the bench that are going to be Hall of Famers. Johan Santana. But they didn't have elite players. They had elite names, as we were just mentioning one of them. But not elite players. Now, again, everybody's going to attack Team USA. This was their chance to win the gold medal and go on to the season. I mean, Aaron Judge might never play in the WBC again. He probably won't because 3 years from now, he's 37, going to be 38. Does he really want to compete when he's at the tail end of his career? He's trying to win a World Series with the Yankees. Maybe they don't win a World Series. So maybe we're going to be talking about, at the age of 38, him trying to drive the Yankees to a World Series championship. Bryce Harper is at the tail end of his career. Schwarber is probably not going to be, or he'll be at the tail end of his career. He'll be on the 18th hole of his career by the time the WBC comes around again. So we got a chance to see some of the young players. We saw Anthony. We saw Paul Skeens. Tarek Skubal will still be around when the WBC comes around in the next 3 years. He'll still be an elite pitcher. I'm sure he will be. So we got a chance to see some of these young players. Broxton. But you expect Team USA to run away with this tournament. Everybody expected Team USA to run away with this tournament, especially when you watch the Dominican Republic get eliminated by them, and then Japan getting eliminated by Venezuela. Italy put up a bigger fight than Team USA did against Venezuela. And again, you go back and everybody wants to point their fingers when it comes to management. Mark DeRosa. This wasn't Mark DeRosa's fault. Mark DeRosa cannot go up to the plate and hit for these guys. He can coach. He can manage. Bryce Harper hit a 2-run home run. Could you imagine if Team USA lost 2-0 and got shut out by Venezuela? Could you imagine that? How bad that would have been. And again, you go back to Team USA early in this tournament. They looked dominant against Brazil. They looked dominant against, I guess, England. What do they call that?
Great Britain.
Great Britain. Two teams that don't have big MLB players on it. And then they played Team Brazil. They barely beat Brazil. And then we all know what happened against Team Italy. And I don't even think Team USA would have beaten Team Italy if Team Italy moved on against Venezuela. I don't think so. Because the facts here is Team USA had a problem with their lineup all playoff or all WBC long. I call it playoff because it was a playoff. That's what it was. It's kind of scary when you look at a lineup that good and half of those guys weren't hitting more than 200. Half of them. Think about it. If you look at Team USA, there were more walks for Team USA. Nobody can get a guy home. Nobody can hit him in scoring position. They looked like the New York Yankees the last couple of years. The Yankees have had problems for years getting guys home in scoring position. And that was the same thing that happened with Team USA Baseball. They have looked bad in this tournament hitting. Their pitching was sensational. Logan looked good. Skeens looked good. Scooble looked good. Every one of them. Nolan McClain was up and down, but a lot of people said that it was obviously he was dizzy or whatever the hell they were saying that he had. I don't know what is the truth with Nolan McClain. Nolan McClain did not look bad against Venezuela. He didn't. He didn't look bad. He just had one really bad inning, which gave up a single run. And again, he gave up 2 runs. But those 2 runs were so very important because Team USA couldn't hit. They would get, and that was another thing Team USA had a problem, getting the first 2 guys on. The first guy would strike out. The other guy would hit into a ground rule single, ground rule a throw to first base. And it was going on pop-up flies. They couldn't get a guy on base. And every time they did get a guy on base, it was 2 outs. They had a lot of problems getting those guys into scoring position. And then when they were walking, they just weren't aggressive enough. And again, you want to point your fingers at management. Maybe some of those things you can point at Mark DeRosa. You had Andy Pettit on a part of that coaching staff. These are quality managers, guys that have been successful in the majors as players. So you can't point your fingers and say that they don't know what they're doing and they didn't put these guys in the right position to succeed. These guys are superstars. They're the best players on their respectable teams in the major leagues. Half of these guys are going to be Hall of Famers. Bryce Harper is a Hall of Famer. Kyle Schwarber is going to be a Hall of Famer. Aaron Judge is going to be a Hall of Famer. We could go on and on and on. Alex Bregman is on his way to be a Hall of Famer. All these guys. They couldn't get enough hitting from their catchers. That's why they were trying to switch catchers. They weren't getting enough consistency. You're going to tell me that the United States didn't have the 2 best catchers in this tournament? They did. Even though Austin Wells probably had the best statistical WBC when it comes to all the catchers in all of that tournament. He played for the Dominican Republic. I don't know if he's Dominican, but he was the catcher.
I guess he has enough eligibility.
He was the catcher of the Dominican Republic, and he was really, really good throughout the tournament. Is that going to tell me that he's going to be great with the Yankees this year? Who knows? I'll tell you who wasn't good in this tournament. Whitlock, who didn't look, well, he was good throughout the tournament, but he was not good in the WBC championship. He looked really, really bad. He was trying to pitch, and he was trying to get strikes, and he couldn't find the strike zone. That's why he walked. Arise. And we all know what happened. I believe that the pinch runner was caught at second base, but there was not enough to return or turn it over or whatever baseball wants to say that he wasn't out. It looked like he nicked his knee before he touched second base. That's what it looked like. That's what I saw. But there was not enough to overturn it. And that run cost Team USA a WBC championship. But I'm not going to blame it only on that. They had a chance, And that was, I thought DeRosa's problem throughout this game is taking Whitlock out of the game. After he walked that pinch runner, I would have taken him out. He didn't have his stuff. He didn't look good. And we've seen pitchers like this just don't have it. Now, Whitlock looked good throughout this tournament. He's probably one of their better relief pitchers throughout this tournament. But in a big game like that, and again, he was a Yankee, but he's been a Red Sox. And I said this in my story that I posted up on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. The game ended on 2 Red Sox. Whitlock, who gave up the run, and Anthony, who struck out. 2 Red Sox. And I by the way, for all the Jet guys, and I say this because I say this because there's one guy who claims he's a Jet fan, and he's a Met fan, who reached out to me after the game and told me about Aaron Judge, and I said to him, and Jeff, you know what I'm talking about. He said, look, your captain. Look at the captain. He couldn't hit a lick. And I said, what did Anthony do? What did Whitlock do? And he got defensive, and all of a sudden he said, I'm a Met fan. So who cares? Facts are facts, guys. Anybody watching the game could understand how baseball is won. It's won by offense. Everybody says it's won by pitching, but you got to score. As good as the pitching was, it wasn't, again, Nolan McLean's fault. He gave up 2 runs. Again, for a team, that dominant team with a great lineup as good as Team USA against Venezuela, against Eduardo Rodriguez. This isn't a guy like a Screwball, or this isn't Felix Hernandez. This isn't one of those pitchers that completely shut you down. They have a good bullpen, but their bullpen is the one that gave up that 2-run home run against Bryce Harper. So as good as everybody says, well, look how good their bullpen was. The WBC has shown that throughout the tournament that all these teams have good bullpens. What happened is Team USA, for some reason in the game, they needed to show up most offensively. I think they laid up a lousy goose egg. They thought they were going to run away with the championship. They thought they were that much better than Venezuela. And Venezuela, throughout this tournament, was as good as anybody. As good as anybody. They shocked Japan. They shocked Italy. And they shocked the United States. They went through arguably the 3 best teams outside the Dominican Republic in this tournament. And they made it look easy. They made it look really easy. Japan had a 5-0 lead, if I'm not mistaken. They were up, I think, by 5 runs or 5-1. And Venezuela came back with knocking here, knocking a run in, knocking in another run, hitting a home run here. They narrowed it down. And eventually they took the lead and just ran away against Japan because Japan couldn't hit against their relief pitching. Same thing that happened to Italy. Venezuela got an early lead, and they made Italy chase. Actually, I think Italy scored the first.
Italy scored first. I think Venezuela.
They scored the first run.
Got in after that.
Then Venezuela got 2 runs, and then Italy couldn't catch up. United States, throughout this tournament, except against Brazil and the Great Britain team, they've had problems scoring runs. They got an early lead against Brazil, but after that, Italy scored 8 runs before they got 6 runs against that defense. And then against the Dominican Republic, they were down by 1. They were down 1-0. They gave up, I think it was an early home run. And then they came back. Paul Skeens pitched an absolute dominant performance. And if they were so worried about Venezuela, which I don't think Team USA was, they should have saved Logan or Paul Skeens. And what really hurt him is that Scooble was called back to Detroit because Scooble would have been pitching in the WBC championship game. Are you going to point your fingers and blame Scooble Tarek Skubal to go home? No, because Tarek Skubal is playing for a big-time contract. He wants that $500 million contract. It's probably going to be his last of his career. And this is a guy that had Tommy John surgery. The fact here is Team USA needs to play better. And I don't know if Mark DeRosa is going to come back. I don't know if he gets a management job with a major league team, and I believe he deserves one. So does the Venezuela coach. He might get a coaching job, a management job very soon in the major leagues too after what he did in this tournament.
Really, he was close with the Astros, and they went in a different direction.
He might get a shot too. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You're not going to see Aaron Judge on this roster in 3 years. There's no way. Bryce Harper, no way. Kyle Schwarber, no way. Alex Bregman, maybe on this roster. But I think in 3 years, they're going to be better players than Alex Bregman.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to see a completely different team. You'll see Paul Skeens. He'll be their number one guy. He'll be the ace. You'll see Nolan McLean again because he's a great young pitcher for the New York Mets. But most of these guys, and everybody keeps blaming that Pete Alonso wasn't in this lineup. I don't think Pete Alonso would have made a difference. I don't. Everybody's complaining, well, look at what they were playing at first base. Bryce Harper's bad consolation prize? Come on. I don't think he's a bad consolation prize. As a matter of fact, I thought Bryce Harper defensively played very well in this tournament. Yeah. Very well. And he's much better than Pete Alonso is at first base. Power-wise, probably not. Not anymore. But again, you look at this roster, Pete Alonso or no Pete Alonso, this roster is as good as any roster in this tournament. Look at Puerto Rico. Because of the insurance situation, a lot of these guys didn't play. Venezuela, there was like 5 or 6 guys that couldn't play in this tournament because they couldn't afford the insurance. There was no excuse for Team USA. None. Because all of those guys could pay for insurance. Every single one of them. Every single one of those USA players paid for insurance. They're all making over $100 million, practically, except maybe 2 or 3 of the younger guys. Paul Skeens isn't. Some of the younger guys, Nolan McLean, the pitchers, but most of those guys are making top pay. Alex Bregman just got a new contract. We know what Aaron Judge just got 3 years ago from the Yankees. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber just got an extension by the Phillies. These guys are getting paid a massive amount of money. Guys like Tarek Skubal, I want my cash. You heard what Bellinger said. They asked Bellinger to play for Team USA, to play first base for Team USA Baseball. And after he got his $160 million contract from the Yankees, he said, no way. He said, no way. Why? Because the Yankees are paying me to win championships, not WBC championships, World Series championships. That's why I'm making the money. Now, I'm not saying that Aaron Judge was wrong for playing in this tournament. He always wanted to play for Team USA. Mark DeRosa made him the captain. He was the superstar player on that team. But he didn't play well. And usually this is the time that Aaron Judge needs to get his timing. Spring training is the best time for him to get his swing back. And now you're playing against better pitching. Now, I'm not saying Eduardo Rodriguez is a great pitcher, but he's a major league pitcher. When you're playing in spring training, you're playing against rookies, AAA pitchers, AA pitchers. Yeah, you'll see a starting pitcher for like 1 or 1.5 innings, but you're not going to see him for a significant amount of time. Like you saw Eduardo Rodriguez, who has been a major league pitcher for what, 7 years? All these guys did not show up in a tournament that they should have ran away with. As we heard AJ Przinsky call them the dream team.
Oh, yeah.
This was not the dream team. If you remember the dream team with Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and all those players, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, David Robertson, Patrick Ewing, all those guys, they won by more than 50 points in every one of those games. They dominated. The only time they didn't dominate was when they played against each other at practice. That's when Michael Jordan took over. There is nobody on this team Nobody on this team that played like a Michael Jordan, like the superstar player when you needed a bucket, where you needed a home run. Now, Bryce Harper, he finally hit a home run in the tournament. He has been really, really bad throughout the tournament. Bryce Harper couldn't hit a lick. In the first 3 games against really bad pitching. Brazil, they had a 17-year-old.
Right.
Who's in high school. I'm not saying, I don't think he was up against him, but he couldn't hit against sub-tier pitchers. Guys that were AA pitchers. Great Britain, he couldn't hit against them either. He walked a couple of times. I think he got a single in that game. You're a superstar player. You're a name. You're a Hall of Famer. And you don't show up in the game when the game means something. And then the Juan Soto coming out and opening his big fat mouth after the fact they lost against Team USA, that the better team lost. Really? You didn't hit a lick either. They didn't hit a lick against Team USA pitching. And it's not Team USA baseball's pitching that lost them this tournament. It wasn't them. And now, you know what I would have done when they gave me the silver medal? I would have gave it back. I would have gave it back. I would have never taken it. As a player that demands the respect of my peers, knowing that I am a United States baseball player, I'm the best of the best. This is where baseball was created. I'm considered the best player. And I could go through that lineup and through that roster. Every one of those players are their team's best player. Every one of them. You go through that roster. I mean, you have 2 players from the same team, Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, but they're the 2 best players on Philadelphia, besides Zach Wheeler. They're the 2 best players. Alex Bregman, right now he goes to Chicago. You could argue he's the best player on that team now. Everyone, Pete Crow Armstrong, who's playing with Alex Bregman. He's a young stud. He was up and down in this tournament when he was playing out in the outfield. Broxton was up and down in this tournament when they brought him in. None of these guys could hit. They could walk, but that nobody could hit anybody in scoring position. It was embarrassing. It really was. And I'm going to tell you this. If you're a baseball fan, that probably was one of the worst losses we've seen in competition with a team that talented in the last 25 years. It was as bad as Team USA basketball losing before the Redeem team 4 years later took over with Kobe Bryant, when you had Stephon Marbury, Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Tim Duncan on that roster, Allen Iverson, all those players. They won a bronze medal that year in the Olympics. That was as bad as that. And they won a silver. It wasn't a bronze. It was a silver. Because to me, you had a chance. You beat the Dominican Republic. You didn't have to play Japan. You were pretty much skiing right to the end of the slope. There was no way you should have lost against Venezuela. No way. Half of these guys, we can't even pronounce their names. I'm not saying they're not good players in the majors. Weiler Abreu. I mean, I can't even pronounce his name because it should be spelled Willer, but it's spelled Wilyer. You can't pronounce his name. How about this? Eugenio.
Hey, you got it this time.
Eugenio. I mean, come on. Eugenio. And when you look at his name, it doesn't even pronounce, it's not even pronounced that way. Half of these guys, you can't even pronounce their names. But they go out there and play baseball like they're champions. And that's all I can say about Venezuela. They were very well managed. They have a bunch of great studs as coaches. Think about it. Miguel Cabrera is probably the best right-handed hitter in Major League history. He's the last guy to win a Triple Crown. Johan Santana, now I don't believe he had that no-hitter for the Mets.
No, he didn't.
Carlos Beltran definitely got that hit.
Yeah.
But Johan Santana is a Hall of Famer. He has one of the greatest changeups in Major League history. It was unhittable when he played for the Twins. Unhittable. These guys are studs. They were great players for their respectable teams when they were in the majors. So it wasn't like Venezuela didn't have the right coaches and management. As a matter of fact, I thought they had better management than Team USA. Not Mark DeRosa. And I'm not saying Andy Pettit, but the guys, the hitting coaches over there. Who's the hitting coach for Team USA?
I don't even know.
It was embarrassing. And I'm not going to blame Mark DeRosa because Mark DeRosa, his job is to get these guys to play and play hard.
That was Matt Holliday and Sean Casey.
I rest my case. Matt Holliday.
Sean Casey, who was a Yankee hitting coach for a while.
Sean Casey. We never had Sean Casey on the show, did we?
No. We had a lot of other ex-Tigers, but no, never him.
Sean Casey, who was an okay hitter in the majors.
Yeah.
I think he played for Cincinnati, too.
Cincinnati later, yep.
It's embarrassing. Now, what do these players have to do now going into a season where it could be a strike year? This was their chance to win a championship. Aaron Judge might never win a championship again. Might never win a championship with the Yankees. This was his chance to run away with a championship. Didn't have to go through Japan. It was smooth sailing after they beat Dominican Republic. I think that the United States played lackadaisical. They thought they were going to go into this game and completely demolish Venezuela because Venezuela got lucky against Japan and Italy. We're better than them. Our rosters are better. Our pitching staff is better. Our bullpen is better. And they were so wrong. Absolutely so wrong. And got embarrassed in front of national televised game, national people. There was over 1 billion people watching that game. 1 billion people watching that game around the world. To be embarrassed the way they did, not hit until they didn't get a run until the 8th inning. The 8th inning, and they had last slicks. They won a coin toss before the game.
Yeah. It's embarrassing when you look at the level of hitting and just the approach never being there. And you're right. Maybe they just took their talents for granted and tried to just win that way. And with their offense not being that great in the knockout round, you would think they would adjust more. Like even against Canada, they scored 5 runs, but it wasn't like it was this consistent onslaught of a team in Canada. They have a lot more talent than too. And when they're playing against the Dominican Republic, they finally got something going on the pitching side against that offense. And they only scored 2 runs. They ended up winning. And thanks to Aaron Judge's defense and a bunch of other things going in, but it still is not an ideal circumstance the way they did it. And now you look at a team like Venezuela, who's already playing with a lot of good adversity as it is between the insurance things that are going on. Fish was saying in the comment section, Jose Altuve wasn't playing. I'm sure he would have been one of their better players, you would think. But you got a lot of scrap heap veterans on the top end of that lineup. Obviously, Suarez is a great power hitter, but like that's a team that's not really as top heavy as you would think. And you look at something like the Venezuela starting pitching staff, it's not great. And Eduardo Rodriguez had to be an unsung hero. Now, their bullpen was very good. Errol, you mentioned it. Andres Machado was like the non-major leaguer that pitched in the 8th inning, and he pitched well. But like he pitched well up until that game. But the rest of those times, you got 2 Kansas City guys. You got Palencia in the 9th inning, who's a very good reliever for the Cubs. But you still have to get a lead to get to that point. How does the U.S. avoid that? Oh, let's hit Eduardo Rodriguez, who hasn't really had a great season since he was with the Red Sox probably in 2021 or something. Like it's been a while for him, and you couldn't even hit that guy. That doesn't look good. And you're right, the pitching did enough. I think Mark DeRosa did okay, not amazing, but well enough to win. And Garrett Whitlock just blew it at that point. And I agree with you. That call should have been an out call at second base. But again, maybe Suarez could drive him in from first anyway. A guy that walks, you never know at that point because Whitlock did not have it.
All right, we have our first caller of the night, and I knew he was going to call. Jeff, what's up, man?
Earl, you're hilarious, bro.
What?
You're honestly hilarious.
Why? What's going on?
You're blaming Roman Anthony for this?
I didn't blame Roman Anthony. I didn't blame him, but I said he was the last one to strike out.
Right. Okay. Someone has to make the last out. Got it. Do you realize Roman Anthony batted .280 with 2 home runs? What did Judge bat? 222 with 2 home runs. And Roman Anthony was a replacement player. He wasn't even selected for the roster. He replaced Corbin Carroll. A replacement player was better than the captain of Team USA. How embarrassing.
So we're going to sit here, and the first thing you're going to attack me with is because I attacked a Red Sox, who, by the way, is not your team anymore. You said you're a Met fan. Did you not?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
you're a Met fan. So you're sticking up for a Red Sox now because you hate those people because they're mean and disrespectful and racist. Remember? You said that.
We beat no, you called them racist, but we did beat them in '86.
Did you not call them racist?
Oh yeah.
Did you not call them racist?
But this is the problem. You're deflecting. A replacement player played better than the captain of Team USA. That is a problem. When can we start to have the conversation that Aaron Judge is nothing more than Dan Marino?
Oh,
was Dan Marino a great player? Dan Marino was the hell of a player. Is Aaron Judge a great player? Aaron Judge is going to be a Hall of Famer, but they can't win. They fold like cheap lawn chairs when the lights are on.
Okay, so we're going to point our fingers and we're going to blame Aaron Judge for this. Let's look at the statistics
who's the
here.
captain? Who's the captain?
Oh,
of
stop!
Who's the captain of Team USA?
So who cares? Anders Lee is the captain for the New York Islanders. Is he the best player on the team? Is he?
No. That would be Michael Nisa. Didn't we get him?
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. What I'm saying here is you're telling me the captain of the team has to be the best player. That's not true. If we look at the statistics here,
our captain should show leadership, which he did not.
Oh, really? What do you have to show leadership? Please explain.
I don't know. How about bat above your body weight?
First of all, this is a spring training game. That's what it is. And Aaron Judge.
Now it's a spring training game. So
Aaron Judge
Roman
does not hit.
Striking out to end the. So Roman Anthony to strike out to end the game shouldn't matter. But
Jeff,
that was your big shot, though.
Jeff,
the replacement player struck out, but the captain can't bat his body weight. So all is forgiven.
So we're going to sit here right now and we're going to make a complaint. And we're going to complain that the fingers are going to be pointed at Aaron Judge on the reason why. Oh, let's look at let's look. All right. Pete Crow Armstrong hitting 263. Bryce Harper hitting 214.
Aaron Judge.
Hold on. Alex Bregman hitting 143. Let's go. Let's go on and on and on. Let's go over here.
He wasn't a starter. Those guys didn't start regularly. Of the regular starters, Aaron Judge had the second lowest batting average, only ahead of Bryce Harper. That's it.
Bobby Witt, who's one of the best hitters in baseball, hit 250. Bobby
Still
Witt.
More than Judge. Still more than Judge.
So now we're pointing our finger at Aaron Judge because you don't like
every guy. No. Every guy that you're trying to point to still played better than the captain. And you're laughing because you're trying to avoid that.
No,
fact.
I'm not. Because
Here's another fact. Game 5 of the World Series. Who dropped the ball in center field? Yankees were running away with that game. Garrett Cole was cruising. Who dropped the ball?
Who dropped the ball? They were down 3-1. They were winning that series.
They win that game. It's anyone's
Stop.
series.
Stop. They were never coming back. They were never coming back.
You should have learned from the Red Sox, who came down 3-0.
Oh,
Yankees, the great Yankees should be able to come down.
That was the ALCS, and they were very, very lucky. A lot of things just fell their way. A lot of things fell their way.
But maybe if Aaron Judge could catch a lazy fly ball, you guys could have gotten lucky.
So that's your take. That's your attack.
Has Aaron Judge ever won anything? Has he won anything?
Jeff, that to me, that's not my argument. Half of these guys never won anything besides the cheaters and Alex Bregman.
But earlier, hold on.
Roman Anthony never won anything. Pete Crow Armstrong didn't win anything. Gunnar Henderson's never going to win anything. Bryce Harper's never won anything. Kyle Schwarber's never won anything. Let's go on. Every single one of these players, but Bregman, who cheated.
Right, but the guy that you brought up that you wanted to blame because you somehow think you're dunking on me is someone I'm not even sure qualified as a rookie last year in Major League Baseball. Roman Anthony his rookie year might be this year. I'm not sure he got enough at bats last year to even qualify as a rookie. And somehow that bum outplayed the captain of USA, the great Aaron Judge.
Oh, so that's what we're going to go at. We're going to have a young kid because he hit 280 and he had a couple of hits. You're going to say he's better than Aaron Judge? How does that make sense?
Who batted 280 and then who batted 222 and then who was
the MVP of baseball last year? Who's been the MVP of baseball?
Shohei Ohtani.
No, he wasn't. In the National League, not in the American League.
And Shohei Ohtani had no challengers. Nobody in the National League really challenged him.
Right. He had no peers, not even Aaron Judge.
Yeah, okay. Aaron Judge had better numbers than Shohei Ohtani did.
So now you want to go to the numbers. So now do the numbers game with Roman Anthony and Aaron Judge. Do the numbers game now. Who batted 280? Who batted 222?
You're an idiot. You really are.
No, I'm not an idiot. I'm just, when you try to make a point, you go, let's go look at the numbers.
You're an
And then
idiot.
when the numbers don't go in your favor, you start yelling about something else. Roman Anthony might not even qualify as a rookie last year, and he was a scab player. A scab. He's a scab. He's a replacement.
Yeah, he's a scab player who struck out at the final out.
Is it true that he was a replacement player? Is it true that he was a replacement
Who
player?
cares if he was, Jeff? What is that argument? How are we
wasn't even
arguing
good
this?
for the team.
It doesn't matter. He was a part of the roster. He's one of the best players at his position in the league. He is.
Well,
He's a
he
young
plays-
son. He is.
but
He's
he
the
plays
best.
right
He
field.
just got a big contract from the Red Sox. Did he not?
Yeah.
They gave him an extension, did they not?
Yeah, no, they did extend him. Yes, they did.
Oh, okay. So he must be a good player. He must be a good one.
Dude, they gave Christian Campbell an extension. He's in AAA.
Jeff, you're going to sit here and try to go back with
You're
Campbell.
talking about
No, I'm not.
extensions and how that means.
Yeah,
you're
but it
talking about
means-
extensions
yes,
and how that means he's a
it
good
means a
player.
lot. Yes, and you're going to tell me that Roman Anthony's a better player than Aaron Judge. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me?
No, what I'm telling you, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he outperformed the captain of the Team USA because the captain, when the lights
It
were
is spring
struck
training.
balls.
It's a spring training game. That's what it's
Doesn't-
No,
so now it doesn't matter.
No,
So why
because
are you blaming people?
Aaron
It
Judge,
doesn't matter.
Aaron Judge last year in spring training, what was he batting? I don't even have the numbers, but he wasn't batting 300. He was not hitting the ball in spring training. It takes Aaron Judge time
He was
to get his
Aaron Judge
timing.
was tied for the Aaron Judge was tied for the 110th best batting average in the World Baseball Classic.
Okay. It's a spring training game. If it was in the middle
now,
of a season.
So now it doesn't matter because it's spring training.
That's what it was.
Any which way you can try to wiggle out of saying Aaron Judge just folds when the lights are on is hilarious.
Really? Because he was best hitter in baseball last year in the playoffs. Besides Guerrero, he was as good as anybody in baseball last year in the playoffs. As a matter of fact, he had better numbers than Guerrero did throughout the playoffs.
And he was terrible when they lost to the Mariners, wasn't he?
The Mariners, they lost against the Blue Jays.
Oh, the Blue Jays. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I said Mariners and I meant Blue Jays. I'm sorry. See how someone can make a mistake and say that they were wrong. Credit to me for being the bigger.
Oh, so that's where we're going now. Giving you credit. Give good old Jeff a little credit.
Well, but every time you try to make an argument, like you just did when you go,
I didn't make
look at
it.
the numbers.
I just helped you out.
No, because
I just helped you out. When you make an argument, it's always an argument that makes no sense at the end of the argument. It doesn't. You're going to tell me because what does it matter what Roman Anthony did throughout the playoffs? I mean, throughout the WBC.
I'm
highlighting one thing. He was the one that struck out in the most important at bat to keep this team alive. So
someone has to make the last out. It happened to him. I'm not judging him on that.
And I'm not judging him either. I'm just saying, isn't it fitting that a Red Sox pitcher, is the one that gave up the winning run? And isn't it fitting the last hitter?
A Red Sox pitcher is also the one that won the game for Venezuela, isn't he? Eduardo Rodriguez was sharp.
No, but that he wasn't.
And who hit the home run for Venezuela? I think that was Willie Abreu, another Red Sox. That's weird.
Real weird.
It's like you're telling me they suck, but apparently when they play for Venezuela, they're really good.
Jeff, you are a piece of work. You really are. You spin it. No, you spin it. That's what you do. You always do it. The WBC is, to me, an exhibition game. That's what it was. And I said it, and I'll say it again. There is no reason why these players should have played in this tournament. If they're making millions and millions of dollars, as Bellinger said, these teams are paying me this big amount of money. I'm there to win championships for those teams, not to play in a damn tournament that means nothing. It means nothing.
Let's bring it back to the Yankee level here. I have a question for you regarding him as a Yankee, okay? When people talk about the Yankees, yourself included, when they talk about the great Yankees, they mention Mantle and Maris and Jeter
Yep.
and Yogi Berra, right? Like
Yep.
these are the Yankees they mentioned.
Yep.
Why did they mention them? Because they won championships. Will people still, and he's a great player, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Will he be considered a great Yankee if he never wins a World Series?
No. He's got to win a World Series. He's definitely going. He had his run last year. He had a sensational run. And the same thing with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Everybody was wondering, when's this guy going to show up in the playoffs and earn his money? He made his key.
Oh, he showed up last year.
Yeah, he did. He did.
He was really bad the first two, though.
And he was one game away from winning a World Series, but they choked. They had a 3-1 lead, and they choked. I'm sorry.
That was crazy, too. That backup, like, third baseman or whatever that idiot was, hitting that home run in the ninth. That was crazy.
Yeah. And I'm not, again, I'm the first one to say it. If Aaron Judge never wins a championship, he's not going to be considered like Derek Jeter is, or Yogi Berra is, or Mickey Mantle, or Babe Ruth, or Lou Gehrig. You need to go out there and win a championship. And he knows that. And he knows he's got to bring one home. And he knows he needs to be a big part of it.
There's a real chance this guy gets skunked. The Dodgers are building a monster. They don't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. And Aaron Judge folds a cheap tent when the lights are on.
It could happen. It could very much happen. Jeff, thank you for calling, bud.
We're watching it. This guy is Dan Marino.
We
He's
love
Jim
you, Jeff.
Kelly. He's Jim Kelly. He gets to the finals. He gets World Series, Super Bowl, all these things, and he folds.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. I love you.
Worst USA captain ever.
Thank you, Jeff. Goodbye. God. This is what I mean. And it was a good call. I'm not taking shots at Jeff. It was a good call. He wants to attack me with the Roman Anthony take and the Whitlock take. That's fine. He had made some good arguments. Here's my argument to it. It doesn't really matter. My argument was before this tournament that these guys should not be playing in this tournament. The best players should not be playing in these tournaments, especially the money that these guys are making. If the WBC, it was in the middle of the All-Star break and they want to count this as an All-Star game, look what obviously Gary Bettman did for the NHL and what the NHL was doing. I thought that was interesting, and I would like to see that maybe with the major leagues. If you want to add the WBC, do it in the middle of a season when these guys are, finally get their, the feet under them. I mean, because Aaron Judge was not going into this tournament and he was going to be jacking up a 330 batting average and he was going to have 5-6 home runs. He doesn't have enough time. He doesn't have enough time to prepare. You're going into a tournament before spring training. That's what it was. He has no spring training. How many spring training games is Aaron Judge going to be playing in before the season starts? The season's what? A week and a half away?
Yeah, he only played like in a week before that, if even.
And Aaron Judge, if you go look at Aaron Judge's numbers during spring training, they're not good. They're not good. He's not good in spring training. He's just not. But to say that Aaron Judge is the reason why, because he was the captain of team, on why Team USA did not win this championship, that's ridiculous. I'm telling you. And Roman Anthony did hit 280. He had 7 RBIs, 2 home runs, and he was an add-on player, but he struck out 6 times. 6. And I know what Jeff's going to say. Well, Aaron Judge struck out 7 times. Bryce Harper struck out 8 times. Kyle Schwarber struck out 7 times. Buxton struck out 4 times. You're going to tell me right now, when you look at this team, and they called this team the dream team. First of all, Pete Crow Armstrong's a great player. Is he a dream team type of player? He's not. Gunnar Henderson, he's a good player. Is he a dream team type of player? These two guys, I would kind of compare them to Christian Laettner from the dream team. Those guys aren't the best players in America at their respectable positions. Pete Crow Armstrong is the best center fielder Team USA has to offer.
Not the way he hit in the second half of the season.
Was he?
Last year. No,
he's not.
No, Carroll was definitely the guy if he was hurt.
Gunnar Henderson? You're going to tell me he's a DH, whatever he is right now for
he's a good player. I
Orioles?
wouldn't say like the best one.
Is he the best player at his position that Team USA was going to add to this roster? He's not. Either is Buxton.
And I like Buxton,
Ernie Clement. Are you going to tell me that Ernie Clement should have been on this roster? This isn't a dream team. And I got news for you. Cal Raleigh. What happened to him in this tournament? He was horrible.
He lost his job. He lost his job. Wilson took over for him. I'm telling you right now, you can't blame this on Aaron Judge. Alex Bregman, who just got a lot of money. He's a great hitter. He was the worst hitter on this roster. He had 14 at-bats. 14. You know how many hits he had? 2. 2 hits out of 14 at-bats. Horrible is being nice. And he just got a $100 million contract by you-know-who, the Chicago Cubs, that just paid him. So, my opinion here, and look, Paul Goldschmidt was an add-on player to the Yankees at the tail end of free agency. He made the team. Let's go through the dream team. If I can name them off the head. Karl Malone, at the prime of his career. John Stockton, at the prime of his career. Michael Jordan, at the prime of his career. Charles Barkley, at the prime of his career. Magic Johnson, tail end. Larry Bird, tail end. David Robinson, prime of his career. Patrick Ewing, prime of his career. That's a dream team. That is a dream team, ladies and gentlemen. Clyde Drexler, prime of his career. You cannot sell me that this was the dream team. It's not. And for anybody like AJ Brzezinski to come out with this garbage to try to sell that to us just tells you how stupid he really is. Dumb. It was a dumb take. I thought it was a good phone call, and I want to give a shout out to Jeff for calling and having the guts to attack me. But I'm sorry. To blame this on Aaron Judge on why Team USA lost is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's also different than basketball. Like, one player is not going to lose a game in baseball. Like, a collective offense loses a game in baseball. Like, there's a lot of hitters that just disappeared all at once. You could say, all right, one relief pitcher or one starting pitcher having a dud game. Okay, fine, that's different. A hitter, not as much.
What did you say? What are you saying?
No, I was just letting you know that we have Sounded Out next.
Okay. Well, I don't know why you guys are not telling me this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Sounded Out.
Big roll here. Jay Quellen. Where's Jay Quellen at? No Jay Quellen here?
Do you mean Jacqueline?
Let's sound it out.
What you call me?
Sound it out.
All right, let's get the music on. And for some reason, I guess we don't have the rundown in front of Errol. Let's get that in front of him, boys. Welcome back to Sound It Out, everyone's favorite phonics, schmonics type of segment. Errol is going to pronounce some of the stars of this year's NCAA tournament. Errol, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Here it is. Right before we get into it, here's our first player. He's a local one. Errol, sound it out.
Zubi Ejiofor.
No.
Ejiofor?
Oh, let's get the buzzer. Wrong answer. Close. Ejiofor. Ejiofor, not I. Ejiofor. Close, though. 0 for 1. A chance to make up for it on the next one. Play it again. Here it is. Our next guy. Errol. Sound it out.
Milan Monsilovic.
Oh, you were so close. You should have went with the first way you were going to say it. It's Chilovic. Milan Momcilovic, clearly. We all know that whatever Eastern European is says chill with that one. Guys, we got one more left. Here we go. Before we get into it and show all our bracket knowledge, Errol, last one. Big Z, sound it out.
Vladimir Ivicevic.
No, but that was actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. That's a good job. Zvonimir Ivisic.
With these stupid names, man.
That's the time of the year for stupid names, though, because it's, Errol, as you know, March Madness time.
Speaking of March Madness, the number 12 High Point upsets the number 5 Wisconsin 83-82 in the most notable upset in the first round. At number 9, TCU beat number 8 Ohio State 66-64 on a game-winning floater by Xavier Edmonds with 4 seconds left. They will now face off against Duke, who struggled against the number 16 Siena, who barely won 71-65 after trailing by 11 at halftime. The number 6 Louisville, number 5 Vanderbilt, number 4 Nebraska, and number 3 Michigan State, and number 4 Arkansas are all our other favorites that won their games. I don't know why we have to put all that up. And it really, honestly, we shouldn't even be speaking about this until probably after the first round. That's what I would say. The High Point was an upset. Everybody expected Wisconsin to move on. They're a good team. They're very well built. They're a good three-point shooting team. And Wisconsin had the lead really throughout the game, except the last 7 minutes. As High Point came back, they started shooting the ball very well, and Wisconsin couldn't hit a lick. I watched that game in itsy bitsy, times, throughout, popping from one game to another. See, the problem here is today we were working on going to this event. So I'm watching that and I'm taking care of all the other stuff that I'm doing at the event. So I didn't really scope out what was going on in all these games. I watched the tail end of the Duke game and I heard that Duke was down by 11 points going into the second half. Cam Boozer did not look good. But again, Cam Boozer still put up a 20 spot. He still had 13, 14 rebounds. Now, teams are going to obviously make him shoot the ball. This is the same thing. I'll say this about Giannis. Every Knicks fan wants Giannis. They love Giannis. Giannis' problem in the playoffs is teams know how to defend against him. We watched what Boston did against Milwaukee a couple of years ago. And what did Boston do? They challenged Giannis. They made Giannis shoot from the outside. Giannis is not a great shooter when it comes to 18, 19-foot jumpers. He's not a three-point shooter. That's not Giannis's game. Giannis's strength is using his athletic ability to get into the paint and dominate and use his length to rebound and get those offensive rebounds. No, you play teams that know how to defend against you. What are they going to do? They're going to shut you down. Cam Boozer, his strength is getting in the paint. He gets those 10, 12-foot jumpers, gets to the line. He's a good free throw shooter. He proved that he's a good free throw shooter in this game, and it paid dividends in the second half of the game. Because if Cam Boozer was not hitting his free throws, I think Duke loses the game. When Duke needs Cam Boozer to take over a game, he does. It's just the problem here throughout this tournament, we're going to see, and that's why I didn't pick Duke to go to my Final Four. I actually have UConn coming out of the East. And one of the main reasons why is losing a significant amount of players at the tail end of the NCAA season, going into the tournament, guys that can rebound, guys that can defend, it hurts you. Now you're depending more on Cam Boozer to do more stuff. And something that I've learned that Shire has done and has been doing over the last couple of games is he has Cam Boozer taking the ball up. He's making him a point guard forward. The same thing he was using Cooper Flagg throughout the tournament last year because of the lack of point guard play. Now, Caden played well in the game. And Caden has played well over the last week and a half since the injuries. And they're going to need him to play at a top level if they expect to win a championship this year. But Shire, and I've said this many, many times, Shire in the tournament has not been good. And I don't care. I had this argument with Jeff. Yeah. We've gone back and forth, and he says, they made the right choice. This guy's he's a winner. He's a great coach. He's a great leader of men. Really? Shire almost got knocked out by a number 16 seed. Shire had a 12-point lead with 1 minute and 40 seconds left in the Final Four last year with Cooper Flagg.
and he lost. Lost. Probably wins the national championship if they come out of that. They beat Florida. They're better than Florida. And we're going to see a lot of that in this tournament. As a matter of fact, for the last year, 2 years, we've seen a lot of number ones make it to the Final Four.
Except in 2023.
I think that maybe one number one makes it to the Final Four this year. Maybe Michigan. Maybe.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of number twos that can make it. UConn is a number two that I'd watch out for, especially in the bracket where everything falls for them. Purdue, who I have winning the whole thing. How about this? Everybody that has Houston counted out. Houston is in probably the easiest part of the bracket. Who do they have to worry about?
Next up, Texas A&M.
They'll run right through Texas A&M. I know Houston's not a good offensive team. Don't be surprised if Houston makes it to the Final Four. Don't be surprised. So we're going to see upsets. I didn't expect High Point to be Wisconsin, and we might see one or two more upsets. We might see another team at 14 or 12 knock out one of these 5 or 6 seeds, because that's what usually happens in these tournaments. It's usually a 5 or 6 seed to knock out a 12 knocking out a 5 or 6 seed, or a 7 seed knocking out an 8 seed, or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
7 seeds have been a common Final Four run in previous years. 8 seeds have been won recently, too. You saw that with North Carolina. They won all the national championship as an 8 seed. And 11 seeds in power conferences are the other trend, too. UCLA made a Final Four. NC State, another team. That's probably the one that makes John Shire look the worst as a coach. An 11 seed beating you in the Elite 8 after you just beat Houston the round before that. That's the one that might have the biggest blemish, obviously, besides almost losing this game.
Look at BYU.
Yep.
BYU is going to get eliminated right now. They're losing against Texas.
Yep.
Texas is an 11th seed. BYU is a 6th seed, and they have arguably the number 1 pick in this year's draft class.
And that's what you look at in a lot of these teams.
AJ DeBenza.
Younger teams that haven't done as well. Texas, I'm not saying Sean Miller's this great coach for Texas, but he hasn't been great for a while since he was with Arizona.
And let me ask you a question, because I know Fish reached out to me and said, Cam Boozer didn't look good in game 1, and does that hurt his draft stock? Well, AJ DeBenza, is he playing well right now in this game?
Yeah, he's like pretty dominant. He's like 35-8 right now.
Yeah,
but
he's not winning. He's not taking his team out of the first round.
When we talked about him the other day, I was saying it reminds me of Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant had that one and done when he was in the draft too. He's kind of like a similar type of mentality.
A lot of flashy freshmen. It's a common thing, especially in today's game, that ends up happening. So.
Yeah, look, I watched the entire game because I actually got a chance to get home early, and we were kind of like not supposed to watch it. Found a way to watch a little bit, but I'll just say this: like Boozer, they were doing things that scared me if I'm taking him as a top pick. It's not like the numbers weren't great. He's going to put up numbers. His dad always put up numbers, right? But his dad had that beautiful rainbow jumper. You remember, he used to have this high arcing jumper. It was like his signature thing. You couldn't leave him open inside the perimeter. They were leaving him open, and he just wanted to pass. Or he would just put his head down and drive to the lane and try to get fouled, or try to do something. That's all he did. And there were a bunch of times he was wide open, and it was obvious, like, take the 10-foot shot. You're wide open.
I want to say something. AJ DeBenza has played 39 minutes. He has 35 points. He's 11 for 24. That's not good. That's not good. I don't care what you say. That's not good. You're going to tell me right now.
That's not bad.
When you're shooting 24 shots, you're going to score 35 points.
Well, you know why though he's got that many? He's got 12 foul shots, and he's 12 for 12 from the line. That's why his shooting percentage is down.
He has not played well in this game.
You're wrong. Well, he's turned the ball over a little bit.
11 for 24 is not good. I'm sorry if you're expected to be the number 1 pick of the draft, because if you look at Cam Boozer was 4 for 11. You said he was bad, but he still had 22 points. And he had 13 rebounds, 3 assists, and his free throws, he was 13 for 14. So
yeah, he was really good too. Look, he was good. I'm just saying that when I would be scared.
He's moving on. He's moving on.
I get it. But they beat a 16 seed with a bunch of guys that he should have dominated more than he did. I'm just saying. But you're right. And I just don't think DeBance is playing with all that much. And he's trying to carry a team, and maybe it's just not the right place. We all have some suspicions why he decided to go there that have to do with Green,
Money.
you know?
Yep.
So,
Let's
I
see
mean,
NIL versus the crumble cookies.
Crumble cookies, man. They were actually really good, crumble cookies. I'm not going to lie. They were really good.
I love it.
But look,
listen, I'm not going to take shots at the kid. All right. But 11 for 24 is not a great game. You're shooting 24 shots and you're 11 for 24 and you're going to be
Errol, if you're 12 for 24, that's 50%. 11 for 24 is like 47% or something like that. That's
good.
normal. That's pretty good. If you're taking outside shots, that's like normal. And he got fouled. 6 of those shots were fouls because he had 12 for 12 on the line. So really, the true shooting percentage is going to be over 50%. No one's going to snap at that. What I think they're going to be worried about is some of the things like he's going to try to do too much. He's going to turn the ball over. He's going to be a ball hog when he has offense because that's what he did because he went to a place that wasn't going to play team basketball, and that's what he's about.
Most of his points in the game were in the paint. So does he have an outside game? Does he really have an outside game where he can dominate in the NBA? And that's the thing. You go to Cam Boozer. I'm not sticking up for Cam, but for you to say that it hurt his draft stock, why? They still won the game. He still had a pretty good game.
I know you're not wrong. He did have a pretty good game. The stats are going to say 22 and 13. He was 13 of 14 from the line. You take that every single time. I'm just telling you, when it got tough and they were down, he passed the ball when he had a 10-foot
He
bunny.
was not confident in the game, and that's fine. There are players that they still won the game, and he was a big reason why they won the game. Is BYU winning this game? No, they're not. They're getting knocked out.
Let me remind you of a guy that was taken number 1 overall once upon a time. His name was Ben Simmons, and he was very afraid of trying to take layups at the hoop, and it ended up ruining his career. I don't know how you aren't taking wide open 8-footers against frickin' Siena. I'm sorry. It's weird that he didn't. I'm just saying.
I am not attacking Cam Boozer for the game that he had. He played well. He needed to do things at the tail end of the game, especially hit his free throws, and he hit every one of them except one. I think he missed one out of all of them.
It was late too, actually. It was like, look, he was really great. I don't want to take shots at him anymore. I like him a lot.
You're going to tell me this is going to hurt his draft stock? It's not.
I just think in a year where you have those 3 guys, he had to have a flawless, tournament.
What if Kansas loses tomorrow too?
But that's the thing. Like, I think he's so far behind the 2 of them. It has to be flawless for him.
Well, good. Let them think that, and he'll go into the NBA and become a star in the league, and he'll go to Indiana, which is going to make me sick because that's I have this feeling. I have this feeling that Indiana's going to get the number 3 pick, and they're going to get Cam Boozer. I just have this bad feeling that that's what's going to happen. I'm predicting it. I'm predicting it on this show right now. Cam Boozer is going to be drafted by Indiana. That's my prediction. And that's what the Knicks are going to have to deal with for the next 15 years. Hal Burton and Cam Boozer. That's what we're going to have to deal with. And I'm going to tell everybody, I told you about this kid. I told you he's going to be special. And what's going to happen is Caden is going to go back and play one more year of college basketball because he wants to be higher. He wants to be a first-round talent. Right now, he's a second-round talent. Even if he has a great tournament and he's played well since he's gotten an opportunity to be a starter, because after losing 2 guys, he's getting more touches on the ball. He's scoring more by a clip. And he was, to me, as impressive as Cam was in this game. He made some quality shots at the tail end of the game. And you could see that Shire is trusting in the kid to make those shots, make those layups. And it was very impressive. Caden is a guy that I think needs 1 more year in college basketball, and I think that's where he's going to go. I don't know if he's going to, even next year, he'll be a top 10 pick because next year's class is going to be pretty damn good. Not as good as this class, but it's worth the risk for him to get the upside up. Right. So he can go to the teens. Don't be surprised if he goes to Indiana, too, to play with his brother.
I'd argue he's the reason they won that game. It was his on-ball pressure against their ball handling at the end of the game when they were tired. He turned them over a few times in a row, and it really changed the momentum. And then he hit his shots, too. His shot is kind of off. Like he's like throws like a knuckleball. There's not a lot of spin on the ball when he shoots. It was kind of weird, but it goes in. You know what I mean? Like the guy's going to be a good player one day.
It wasn't like it might have been an awkward looking shot, but it was still very precise. It wasn't like there was a lot of added motion. So I don't think that's a big problem.
I think his ceiling is really high. Like I really like what I saw out of him. But Errol, before we move on from Duke, I know you didn't hear the post game with John Shire where he said he got outcoached by the 16 seed. You know who the coach was with Siena?
I don't listen to that. You know,
it was Jerry McNamara, Syracuse legend. Yep. And they were running like a bastardized 2-3 Syracuse type of thing. And the guys were just running. He didn't take a single starter off the court until like 20 seconds left in the game. And they were running into walls, jumping into the stands. It was crazy. It was so much fun to watch Jerry McNamara basketball. But the fact that the number 1 seed guy is saying he's getting outcoached. He did.
I remember him.
He was the point guard with Carmelo that year, and then he was there for like 6 years or something like that. But
I've told you guys this. I've told you about Shire. I don't think Shire is any good as a head coach for I'm stuttering tonight. Duke Blue Devils. My question here is for all the fans out there: is Duke going to be able to continue playing at a top level in this tournament or play at a top level in this tournament as the tournament starts to move on? Because you're going to be matched up possibly against Kansas or St. John's. And then in the Elite Eight, you might be matched up against UConn. And UConn, to me, is the best team in this division. Not because I don't think Duke is great and they're my favorite team. It's just because of the injuries that Duke has. And they're going to depend a lot on Cam Boozer. And Cam Boozer, when pressure, teams are going to pressure him to make shots that he's uncomfortable making. And you can see it when he was uncomfortable. He was forcing shots and he was forcing the ball out of his own hands. And we've seen this. Giannis did the same thing. We've seen Giannis at a top level in the playoffs where teams were forcing him to do things he was uncomfortable doing. That's what happened to Cam. Cam's going to have to figure it out now moving on in this tournament. Well, he's not going to have to worry about people boxing him out or keeping him on the outside. And if they do, he needs to hit his shots. He needs to be confident and make those shots, which all season long he has. He's a pretty good three-point shooter for a guy his size, too. He's a pretty good all-around player. I think he's just as good as Peterson and AJ. But obviously they're looking at AJ because of his athletic gifts, and Peterson, who a lot of people believe is the best one out of all of them.
And we were talking about it, too, with the coaches in that region on the last show, too. I'm not going to say that I'm going to pick them to lose against their next opponent in TCU, but Jamie Dixon comes from that Jim Boeheim tree with Syracuse, and they're going to do the same kind of concepts you saw that McNamara did with playing a lot of zone. And is John Shire, if he's going to claim he's going to adjust and actually be a better coach in this game, yeah, that's going to be enough to look like Duke is going to get those guys, because you have to get that confidence back. You should beat TCU by double digits. I think they're a good team, TCU. I don't think they're a powerhouse by any means. And then you're, like you said, you're looking at St. John's, you're looking at Kansas, who has the upside if they can stay healthy and that kind of thing. And even some of the teams on the other end of the draft, UCLA is a veteran team. They went to a Final Four. Mick Cronin's a good coach. And UConn, like you said, 2-time national champions. Like, there's enough in that region that's going to make it very tough.
This tournament is so wide open. There's no predictions. Yep. You can't predict this tournament. I wrote a story that's posted up on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network and my thoughts of the bracket. It's anybody's guess. You cannot look at, usually all the number ones don't make it to the Final Four. No. Now, last year they did. It happens, but it doesn't happen every single year. And to me, even looking at this year, the number ones are so overrated. I don't think Arizona, as good as they've been all season long, am I going to trust that Arizona is going to go all the way to the Final Four? No, because they got to walk into a jigsaw of Purdue. And I think Purdue, to me, with the size that they have and the rebounding they have, I think they could dominate the boards and take the ball away from Arizona and make Arizona play the game and play uncomfortable the game that they want to play in this tournament.
Yeah.
There are teams that we've talked about. VCU is a team going into this tournament that a lot of people think could surprise. Vanderbilt is another team that could surprise a lot of people. So Alabama, who lost one of their second best player, Alabama, the way everything's set up for them, they might not be, they're playing Hofstra, I think, tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So if they get out of the Hofstra game, I think all the way to the Sweet 16 or maybe even the Elite 8, they have the easiest way to get there.
They have that until the Sweet 16 where they have to get to Michigan at that
Michigan.
point. Yeah. And they'll play the winner of the Texas Tech, which has their best player hurt for the season too, or Akron if they win that game as the 12th seed as the next.
I had Texas Tech winning that game. I couldn't believe BYU lost the first.
Here, let me bring up your bracket from our thing. I'll do that right now, and we could take a look at it.
So
And
I
I do have it right here.
Yeah, I actually had VCU in that one. I had VCU in the Sweet 16. We'll see if that continues.
It's interesting. And again, it's wide open. You don't know what to predict, how this thing is going to fall together and who's going to move on in the tournament. But my prediction is I think Connecticut is going to run away in the East. And again, there's my Final Four right there. Right there. I have Michigan getting out of their bracket. I have Purdue coming out of their bracket. I had UConn coming out of their bracket, and I had Houston, because Houston, I mean, besides, I don't know who they're matched up against in the Sweet 16, or who I had them reach out. Who did I have them match up against? Vanderbilt?
It looks like it's Illinois. Vanderbilt would be the Elite Eight if it gets to
yes.
that point.
So I had them against Vanderbilt in the Elite Eight, and them beating Vanderbilt, because I think they're better than Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's going to make it to the Elite Eight. They're a lot of people surprised that could move on because of the good
experience.
Yes, they have a bunch of good they have a bunch of good veteran players on that team, and they have a couple of good young guys too.
Speedy, do we all have that exact same Elite Eight? Because I have that too.
No,
and Houston coming out too.
I actually have a little more vulnerability with Houston because I don't trust their offense as much. I actually had VCU running at that point, and I think I had, because I remember I said it on Call Your Shot too, I had Florida losing too. So I have that region as the crazy region for me. I do have Michigan and Virginia. I do like Iowa State too. It was tough picking against them, but I think Virginia's been a little better in the second half of the season. Iowa State, kind of like what I was mentioning with Nebraska, kind of got iffy in conference play, a little more in that Big 12 competition. So I think Virginia I had a little higher, even though I like all that team in that cluster. Fish, it's interesting because that right side, I have like all the top heavy teams. Errol was mentioning with Alabama. Like there's still a lot of run that they can make with Texas Tech having the injuries that they have. Michigan, I just think has too much size for a team like that. And I think Virginia has a lot of good offensive balance overall that can make them dangerous too. That's going to be a tough matchup too if that ends up being the 1-3. And then in the Arizona region too, you have a top four that's all very good. It was tough for me to pick Gonzaga or Purdue because I think they're both very good as well, veteran teams as well.
I will say this, and I watched AJ play throughout the year, and he's gifted. He's athletically gifted, but I don't know if he has a great shot. And coming into the NBA, you need a three-point shot. If you watch this game, he hit 1 3-pointer. And I think he shot like 4 or 5 of them. If he's not consistent,
I think it was worse actually. That's what they worry about with him, Errol. You're 100% right. It's always, is this guy going to shoot enough?
He's 1 for 7.
It was like 1 for 6, 1 for 7. I think it was late in the game. They tried to chuck a few up when it was over, but he's a high usage player right now. But here's the thing. Peterson isn't being used like that. And I am so fascinated to watch Peterson and what I think is going to be an amazing basketball game. That St. John's Kansas matchup, I think, will happen heading over to the second round. So if we get that over the weekend, I think that's going to be great basketball. But the thing that really confuses me about Kansas is I feel like they're better without Peterson. And that doesn't make sense because he's one of the best players in the world at that age, right? And he's the best player they think coming out, or one of the top 3. Why is that happening? And it's like he's not a part of their offense. He doesn't fit into their scheme as much, and they're having him play off ball. Everything I heard about him coming out, Speedy, was this is an on-ball guard, that he's just like a big point guard, and they're not using him that way. And I don't like teams that do that. I think they're really like kind of risky pick in.
Yeah,
this
I
one.
was on vulnerability angle with Kansas. I didn't think there was enough good upset candidates with the 13 seeds as much this year as I would have seen maybe if it was one of the 12s, if one of the 14s that I liked rising into that. Maybe if Yale won, they got the Ivy League upset or something like that. I just didn't see it with this team.
There was a lot that I've heard over the last couple of weeks about Peterson. That Peterson didn't get his NIL deal that was offered to him. He was missing $100,000. That pissed him off, and that's why he didn't play hard all season long. Kansas should have been a 1 seed with the ability that Peterson has. Peterson and Kansas recruited a pretty good class. This is not a bad team, but Peterson is the best recruit. If you look at all three players, as much as they said at AJ was the bona fide number one pick, Peterson has the best game. He can shoot. He can get into the paint. He has the athletic gifts. He can shoot the free throws. He can do everything. And he's a good rebounder at his size. But because he doesn't show up game after game, and a lot of people say that he gives up. He doesn't want to go back into the game in certain parts of the game when he feels like the team doesn't need him. So that's the problem with Peterson. I think that would scare me to draft him at number 1 or maybe even number 2. Maybe you look at him at number 3 or maybe full out at number 4. Wilson, to me, now North Carolina's Wilson, he's got some game. He's a great offensive gifted player, and this guy's going to be a 25, 30-point scorer in the NBA. He's that good. He's long. He's got all the gifts as an offensive player, and he could shoot the ball. So do you look at Peterson and you look at Wilson and you say, you know what, I might take a flyer with Wilson because at least I know he's going to play hard. I know he's going to score, and he's going to give me what I need from him at a high level every single game. Peterson, if he's not getting his contract, he's not happy with the players on his roster, he doesn't play hard. Who's the kid that they said he fell in the draft last year and he went to Utah? Who's the kid?
Oh, Ace Bailey.
Ace Bailey. And Ace Bailey, a lot of people thought was a top 5 talent.
I did.
Everybody thought that. But there were things off the court that people didn't like, and some of his work ethics. They said that he didn't work very hard when he was on the basketball court. He could have played at a high level in certain games, and sometimes he doesn't look like he's playing at a high level. And that's the same thing I worry about Peterson. Peterson's a much more talented player than Bailey is. But if you're not going to get all of Peterson, why would you give up a top 3 pick and take a flyer? And instead of taking a flyer on a guy like Wilson, he is coming off an injury to his finger, but this guy is a predominant 25, 30-point scorer in the NBA. That's a superstar in the league.
Yeah, and you look at the type of mindset for these players now that in this NIL era that you're trying to get these bigger schools, especially on board, these different schools, especially on board that aren't the bigger schools. Obviously, North Carolina is one of them, but you look at BYU, you're looking at Rutgers last year with Harper and Ace Bailey on that team, and they didn't even make the tournament last year with a coach and Steve Peichel that we know is good, Errol, that has been a good defensive-minded coach that's made the tournament with teams that are not nearly as talented with them, and they just got eaten up a lot in that tough Big Ten. And that kind of thing you want to see carry over. And somebody like Sean Miller coached against Dabonza, let him do his thing, but wear him out, I guess, enough. And you saw they just didn't have enough at the end against a Texas team that has good talent, but it's not the level of somebody like Dabonza.
And another thing, Flemings is a guy that everybody likes. He's a great defensive player. I think he's a shooting guard. Again, I'm going to kind of compare him to Donovan Mitchell. He's that type of player. Donovan Mitchell is not as tall as him. He's 6'6", but he's very long. And he could play the shooting guard position because, to me, you have to be an average of 6'6" now in the NBA if you want to be at the shooting guard position. He's got that ability. He can defend multiple positions. I've seen him defend the 3. I've seen him defend the 2. And I've seen him defend the 1. And I think he's going to develop a shot in the NBA, just like Donovan Mitchell. As a matter of fact, he's got a better shot right now in college basketball than Donovan Mitchell did. So if he works and he uses his athletic gifts that he has, Flemings could be an absolute steal at number 5 or number 6. Some people quote him at number 8. That's where he's somewhere going to fall because there are guys a little bit better than him or more high quality of a pick than he is. But I still think if I'm a team, I'm reaching, I draft him at 6. Why not?
I know you say that, but like I took Arizona to win it all. I got really into that Big 12 championship game, and they shut Flemings down in that game in the second half. And I was shocked at how well they played. Like I thought Burries was playing defense like Klay Thompson played defense on the perimeter, the way that he plays. If he could have his shot be a little bit better, like he's got a crazy two-way game, that kid. I'm really interested in who he is. I think he's the big X factor in this tournament. If he comes into his own, he could even be a top 10 pick. But the guy that I wanted to mention was Wilson at UNC. Errol, while you were doing the WBC, UNC lost a double-digit lead and then blew the game to VCU. They were up about 15 or something like that.
Very Duke-like. Very Duke-like.
That's resemble their rivals.
It was ugly, and then they started turning him over on the inbound pass, and they tied it
Duke
up.
like, another Duke thing.
UNC steals it, almost gets like a clean shot to get the win in overtime, and then they blow it in overtime. And it was just remarkable what a guy like Wilson would have done. They wouldn't have been a 6 seed; they would have been a 3 seed if he didn't get hurt. Sure. And who knows what would have happened in this tournament, because that guy.
UNC were better than Virginia anyway, though.
I will
6'10".
I will say this: if you were to ask me right now, who would I take a flyer on, Peterson or Wilson? I'm probably taking Wilson. Not because of the talent that Peterson brings to the table. Darren Peterson is as good as anybody in this draft. Darren Peterson could be a superstar in the NBA. He really could. And whoever's sitting at 4 or 5, if he falls that far, which I don't believe he will, but if he does fall to 4 or 5, they might get a great player. But Wilson, to me, he's a guy that could score. You need those guys. Teams like the Nets, if the Nets are sitting there at 4, are you going to bring in Peterson, who's not going to like playing with Brooklyn because there's no stars playing with him? And honestly, if you look at who Darren Peterson is and what he has done this past year with Kansas, do you want to play with Darren Peterson? Probably not. Probably not. No matter how good he is, I'm staying far away from Darren Peterson. If I'm Giannis right now and I become a free agent in a year, if I don't get traded in the offseason, or if I do, I talk to the Nets and the Nets have enough to trade me to the Nets, am I going to want to play with Darren Peterson, knowing his background and the back end of what we've heard over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months on him not really playing hard? Because I've heard stories through a player that I know from Kansas saying that Peterson pretty much told the coaching staff in one of the games, one of the college games this year, that he doesn't want to go back in. I mean, you're telling a coach that's telling you to get into the game, I don't want to get back into the game. I don't need to. You want that player? Yeah, you're an NBA team and you're going to pay this guy a rookie contract worth about $12, $13 million. That's what you're going to give your rookie sensation, that you're going to bet on a franchise player of that magnitude, knowing that this guy didn't want to go and play in a college basketball game when you can help your team win? That to me is alarming. Wilson wouldn't do that. Cam Boozer wouldn't do that. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I've heard about Cam Boozer is the way he plays under pressure. This guy is one of the best players. When he played in high school, he won a state championship. He was the best player on the court, and he played against some of the best players in the country. And he went out and won a state championship, and he put it all on his back. You want those kind of players when he wants the ball at the end of the game to try to hit it. That was one thing that Carmelo Anthony was great at. That was one thing that Kyrie Irving, even though he never really got a chance to perform in Duke because he broke his foot. These are the guys you want. Allen Iverson, he wanted the ball. Those guys want the ball. So that's my opinion. I don't know if I trust Darren Peterson. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is my deuce of the day.
The deuce of the day.
You log. Not a log. I don't have a log, but you know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Gronkowski is back in the tabloids. Why are we not surprised, ladies and gentlemen? During COVID-19 pandemic, and now Rob Gronkowski has said this numerous amount of times on different podcasts. Well, he said it this week again on a podcast, that during the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically in 2020 NFL offseason, Rob Gronkowski admitted that he bypassed mandatory virtual workouts requirements while he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And here's another thing. The one thing that I could say about Rob Gronkowski is he also faked workouts to comply with the team's virtual conditioning program. Players had to film themselves during doing sprints and send them to the coaches. Gronkowski recorded multiple days worth of running, and in one session, changing his shirt to make it appear as though he was doing it multiple days. So, interesting story for Rob Gronkowski. I don't know Rob Gronkowski personally. I'm sure he's a good person. We had Chris on our show. Chris says he's a funny and he's a great brother, and it's a great story. on how Gronkowski became a superstar in the league. And he also had Tom Brady throwing the ball, and he had Bill Belichick coaching him. But when you hear a story like this, and the same thing happened with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers did not want to take the shot. He was actually against taking the shot, which caused a lot of problems during the pandemic because he lied about taking the shot. And eventually the NFL got wind on it, and they were very upset that he lied about not taking that shot. So the problem here is Rob Gronkowski, it's not like not taking the shot and playing in a football game, but to know that he was not training and working out for the contract that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave him says the type of person that he is that he took advantage of who he was as a superstar player with the Patriots. And he said, you know what? I don't need to go to off-season workouts. I don't need to do mandatory virtual workouts and requirements because I'm Rob Gronkowski. So my deuce of the day is that players need to work a little bit harder. No matter how big of a superstar you are, if the other players are doing it, you should be doing it too. So shame on Rob Gronkowski. But guess what? He's laughing about it. And by the way, he's laughing to the bank because he still made his money over there in Tampa, as every player does, especially superstar players like Rob Gronkowski. And by the way, they did win a Super Bowl, and he was a part of that as well. So, and was he not the one that almost threw the trophy into the ocean? Was that not him?
It's into Tampa Bay, literally.
Yeah. So typical Rob Gronkowski fashion. So yeah, that's Rob Gronkowski, ladies and gentlemen. And I love Rob. I think he's a great, I don't think he's a great analyst, but I love his personality. I love who he is and just everything about him on the back end. I like him. His podcasts are funny. I don't like him doing broadcasting or play-by-play. He's really, really bad at it. Fox needs to get rid of him. Julian Edelman has a good podcast too. I like his podcast. But when he's doing anything with analyzing what happened in games, I don't want to hear what he has to say. I don't care if he played in the NFL. It's like asking a guy that is trying to pretend that he's a head coach explain what he sees on a television. Okay. He is not a quarterback. These guys are not quarterbacks. Tight ends are not quarterbacks. Wide receivers are not quarterbacks. Even though Julian Edelman, when he played college football, he was a quarterback. But his whole career in the NFL, he was a wide receiver. So I don't want to hear what he has to say. I'd rather hear what Tom Brady has to say, and he's been pretty good at it. But guess what? The NFL has found ways for Tom Brady to get away with things too, because he gets to own a team and he gets to make $35 million and get the highest paid contract as an analyst in NFL history and sports history. Why? Because he's Tom Brady. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking to former 10-year MLB reliever vet Juan Ricon will be joining us. He pitched from 2001 to 2010 with the Twins, the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Rockies. But first, our Sports Minute with Fish.
This is the Jabba and the Mouth Sports Minute.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another Sports Minute. It's Aaron Fishman. Got a couple of stories for you, and then we'll get into the scores this evening. First up, shocking and scary news in the NBA earlier on Thursday as Detroit Pistons announced that superstar wing Cade Cunningham will be out for an extended period of time due to a collapsed lung. Cade will be reevaluated in 2 weeks and will miss at least the next 8 games. ESPN's Shams Charania says that the left lung pneumothorax is considered to be mild, and the number 1 seeded Pistons are optimistic that they will have their young phenom back in time for the playoffs on April 18th. Maintaining that number 1 seed without Cunningham will be harder for Detroit to manage, though, as the Boston Celtics, who recently got Jason Tatum back, are hot on their heels, only 3.5 games behind them in the standings, while the Pistons have scuffled some, even with Cade in the lineup, going 5-5 in their last 10. Cunningham was third in the MVP odds in the NBA this season. Before this sudden ailment, he averaged 24.5 points per game, 9.9 assists, and 5.6 rebounds, with a steal and a half and just under a block per game on 46% shooting, 35 from 3, and 81 from the line. The WNBA and their players' union agreed in principle to a new collective bargaining agreement, eliminating concerns of a strike before the beginning of their season in early May. The salary cap has exploded from $1.5 million in 2025 to a whopping $7 million for this upcoming season, the WNBA's 30th in its existence. The Supermax contract will go up to $1.4 million from just under $250,000 last season, as well. Average salaries are also expected to go up to around $600,000 per player, 5 times greater than last season's $120K. A formal agreement must still be ratified by their players and the WNBA's Board of Governors. While many were worried a labor strike could stop the upcoming season, MBPA Executive Director Terry Carmichael Jackson told reporters after the agreement, which occurred in the middle of the night amidst a marathon bargaining sessions last night, that I think this can be summed up in 2 words: player empowerment. Players coming to the table and standing on business and being reminded of the collective voice and of what it means to be in a union and the power of this union. They never forgot it, and they have taken it, like they always do, to the next level. WNBA Executive Committee President Nneka Ogwumike added, we're just really grateful to be able to come to a deal. We're proud of ourselves. And quite frankly, we always told you all we were going to stand on business. And that's what this looks like. The players will also be benefiting from revenue sharing for the first time in this new deal, which WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert called a fair win-win for all. In hockey tonight, just concluding, the Wild fell to the Blackhawks 2-1 in Minnesota. The Rangers fell to the Blue Jackets 6-3. In action right now, the Predators have a 2-1 lead on the Kraken with 12 minutes left in the third period. 8 minutes in the second, it's 2-0 Panthers over the Oilers. It's 0-0 with 12:57 in the first between the Lightning and the Canucks. 1-0 Mammoth with an early goal over the Vegas Golden Knights, and no score in San Jose between the Sabres and Sharks early in that one as well. Still to come tonight, Flyers Kings. Earlier today, the Bruins beat the Jets 6-1. The Senators beat the Islanders 3-2, and the Red Wings beat the Canadiens 3-1. In the NBA, it's late in the game right now. The Lakers have a 111-107 lead on the Heat. Just under 5 minutes remaining in the fourth. Under 3.5 to go in Chicago. It's 103-102 Cavaliers over the Bulls. 2:11 left in the game. Pelicans have a 7-point lead at home against the Clippers, 104-97. It's 97-95 with a minute and a half left in the fourth between the Suns and the Spurs. At the half, the Jazz have 64. The Bucks only have 44. And 6 minutes left in the first quarter. It's 26-18 Sixers over the Kings. Earlier finals, Hornets 130, Magic 111, and Pistons with their 50th win in the season, 117-95 over the Wizards. All other college basketball games in action right now in the tournament. Illinois in the first half has a 26-17 lead on Pennsylvania with 8 minutes left there, and just underway Houston and Idaho, and St. Louis and Georgia. Still to come, Gonzaga, Kennesaw State, the last game of action. Guys, we are streaming live on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube on our Job in the Mouth handle, on Facebook under the Worldwide Sports Radio Network handle, and on Twitter under our host handle at ErrolMarks34. Keep downloading on Apple Podcasts and watch us both there and on Spotify. Now in video. Make sure you like and subscribe all our shorts, reels, TikToks, longer videos you see from us throughout the week. Now back to Errol and Speedy for our guest on Jabba and the Mouth.
Any questions?
What is this? We're back. This is the Jabba and the Mouth Show.
Breaking news. Breaking news. A lot of hot ladies. Breaking news. They call me the ladies' man and Mr. Breaking News. These moms.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. What boring song is this? Who picked this song? What is this? You're listening to Jabba and the Mouth. I gotta pick the music now. Whoever's picking this music is garbage. My name is Errol Marks. My co-host Petey tonight. Executive producer Mr. Aaron Fishman. On the board, Tommy Poops. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including Jabba and the Mouth, every single Mondays and Thursdays at 6:45 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all the shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And our show is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. And Omaha Steaks is giving an extra 10% off on all the Jabba and the Mouth fans. Just click the link, www.omahasteaks.com/jobinthemouth, or go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com and click the Omaha Steaks logo. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like your beef thick, if you like your beef juicy, ladies and gentlemen, if you want it juicy and you want 10% off of it, hit the link at www.omahasteaks.com/jobbinthemouth and get your 10% off. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he has been waiting, and we're happy to have him on. We are now talking to former 10-year MLB reliever Juan Ricon. Juan, what's up, bro?
How are you guys? Nice being on your show. Thank you very much
Well, thank you
for
for coming.
the invitation.
Well, thank you for coming. I mean, it's cool to have you on. I remember you as a pitcher, more on the Twins. I remember you with the Twins, and you had a problem sometimes against the Yankees. I'm a Yankee fan, so I remember you a lot. And for some reason, the Twins can never beat the Yankees in the playoffs ever.
Yep.
It's funny because I got a chance to interview some ex-Twins in the past, and I got into what was it? Was it bad juju against the Yankees, or just the Yankees were there? I don't. What do they call that?
Kryptonite.
The kryptonite. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, but I remember you on as a relief pitcher. You were a really good relief pitcher. You had your problems against the Yankees, and that's how I remember you. But that doesn't mean that you're not a great pitcher. You've been 10 years, almost 10 years in the major leagues, 9 years in the majors from 2001, 2010. That's a pretty good career. And it's funny because we're friends with Nick Goody. And Nick Goody was a relief pitcher in the majors. He was, I think, 5 years, 6 years in the majors. And we talk about his time with the Guardians. What was the difference playing in Minnesota and then going to Cleveland?
Well, the in Minnesota, I remember we had the dome, so weather-wise, we were very spoiled. I think it was at 70 degrees every night, every game. So going to Cleveland, then as a player for Cleveland, it was where I played my first doubleheader in the big leagues ever. So it was after 6 years in the big leagues. Never had to play a doubleheader. The first game was supposed to start at 2 o'clock, started at 7 p.m. The second game started, I think it was at 11 p.m. Sorry about that. So it was quite an experience, different experience. It was colder, of course, because it was outside. So I couldn't, it was a little different. Cleveland was way different than Minnesota in that aspect.
The WBC was fun to watch. It really was. And watching Venezuela, a team that nobody expected to go to the finals and knock off Japan, knock off Italy, that knocked off the United States, and then knock off the United States the way they did. I mean, they completely dominated the United States as far as what we saw with the pitching. And besides Bryce Harper getting the 2 hits, they completely shut down Team USA's lineup, which everybody called the dream team. I don't know why, because they were definitely a dream. That was a nightmare to watch. So what was it? Why do you think Venezuela played such as a high level team throughout this tournament than teams like Japan and teams like the United States?
Well, I don't know about the culture in Japan. Never been there. I have never played against them or never did. I think that the U.S. takes it. Well, I got picked to go here, so I got to go and represent. Something like that. For us, it's totally different. We have gone for the last 26 years through some very, very bad stretches as a country, and those guys, they take it very seriously as I'm gonna give something back to my country, to something to celebrate. It is hard for somebody to put it in perspective or to put it into words what it means to us to go out there and listening to our national anthem, and wearing that hat, they had the jersey with the Venezuela. You don't play for, like the Yankees used to say, you don't play for the name in the back of the jersey, you play for the front of the jersey. So that's the difference with what I have seen with the U.S. and Venezuela, for example. Yesterday, 2 days ago, it was, I think, we play with our heart outs, and that's why we end up winning.
When you look at the team, Suarez is a star in the league. He's a great hitter. But if you look at the roster from top to bottom, they don't even compare to Team USA.
No.
And then you look at their bench, the management. You have Miguel Cabrera, arguably the greatest right-handed hitter of all time. And there's a pitcher over there who had a nasty changeup over there with the Twins.
Actually, I had 2 changeups. People don't
Yeah,
know he had 2 different changeups.
Johan Santana, who is going to be a Hall of Famer. He was one of the best pitchers in the league for about 10 years before he had arm trouble. But this guy was as
He
good
was
a
the
pitcher.
most dominated pitcher in the 2000, early
Yes.
2000.
He was
by
sensational.
far.
He really was. With the Twins, he was unhittable. I remember the one pitcher the Yankees always had problems with. Well, there was 2, Johan Santana and Felix Hernandez. Those were the 2 guys they had problems with year in and year out. And the one thing I remember with Johan Santana was his changeup. And yeah, I didn't even know he had 2 changeups. But those 2 guys, Miguel Cabrera and Johan Santana, were bench coaches on Venezuela. And I think that helped them because you have 2 stars, 2 guys that have played at a top level. So what do you think? Do you think they had a lot to do with the success? Obviously, Miguel Cabrera with the hitting and Johan Santana with the pitching.
I think they did, and I tell you, it's not because they gave the secrets of their career, because I don't think that was a fact. I think that the reason why it was because those kids I grew up watching Johan Santana and Miguel Cabrera playing. So at some point they say, I want to pitch like him, I want to hit like him. So now having them in the clubhouse, in the dugout, it was like a dream come true as far as I'm gonna listen to what this guy has to say. It's not sour metrics. It's not about spin rate. It's not about none of that crap that they're teaching nowadays. It's about how you compete, how you pitch, how you hit, the approach at the plate. Dusty Baker said a few years ago that the computer can help you to identify what are the issues, the swing, the pitch and all that, but how can you correct it? The computers are going to tell you. So that's when you have all these guys with all that experience in the big leagues. He said, hey, what do you think about this? It's not about your swing, it's about the approach, because these guys, they have been there. And that's why I think that it was very important for them for the team to have those guys in the dugout.
So one of the big conflicts going into the World Baseball Classic was the insurance controversy with the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and a couple of players as well. And people were saying, oh, the U.S., if they want to make this their type of thing, because Rob Manfred obviously came out on the field and celebrated with Venezuela and congratulated them. So they want to make it their type of tournament. Do you think the Major League Baseball league office has to do more to help those players to make it a better tournament that can happen with the best stars that are there?
I think that they should, because the show, the people are paying big money. These tickets were very expensive. I'm here close to Miami. My son got to go to 3 of those Venezuelan games, and they were very, very expensive. So if you're gonna pay all those top dollars, you want to go see, the superstars wearing your national colors. So I think that the Major League Baseball could have done a little bit better, a little bit more, to help out those players that they really wanted to play. I don't know what was the situation. Maybe somebody blame it on the insurance in order not to go because they probably were not prepared, or when they have some undisclosed or soreness or whatever, they don't want to risk it. So but the Major League Baseball should have done a little bit better with that.
We are talking a former 10-year MLB reliever, Juan Ricon, pitched from 2001 to 2010 with the Twins, the Guardians, the Tigers, the Rockies. And we're talking about the WBC because a lot of people were shocked the way Venezuela just absolutely dominated Team USA and really was successful throughout this tournament. A lot of people were shocked that they got as far as they got, but they had talent. There's no question that they did, but they were missing players because of insurance situations. And Team USA, even though they didn't have all their top guns, Tarek Skubal decided to go back with Detroit. Maybe if he pitches in the championship game, maybe it's different. Who knows? I mean, Nolan McLean is a good pitcher. Nobody's going to take that away. And I thought the way Venezuela actually handled Team USA's pitching, even Whitlock was one of the best relief pitchers during the WBC. They hit against him, they walked against him, and then Suarez gave him, a run for his money. My question to you, Juan, when you look at this tournament, and you look at Team USA, you look at the Dominican Republic, you look at Japan, those were the 3 top teams going into this tournament. Las Vegas had USA 1, Japan 2, Dominican Republic 3. Nobody really looked at Italy. Nobody looked at Venezuela.
Mhm.
Nobody looked at any of these teams, these third world countries, as they would call them, because nobody thinks they have enough talent to win. But they have proven that now in this tournament that it's possible. It's possible for these teams to come out and knock off the top teams, the USA, the Japanese. I mean, Cuba, we've seen how good Cuba's been, and they're a third world country. They weren't so good, or because of obviously the insurance situation. But for years, Cuba's always had a very, 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 very good team. So,
Well,
is there?
When Japan won the first time, they went against Cuba. So they
That's true.
knocked out everybody out,
Yes.
and they gave Japan a run for their money. It was in the easy. So to your point, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what kind of turned me off, because I think this would be better in the middle of the season, because the spring training, these guys, this is like spring training to these guys. You have Aaron Judge, who doesn't really hit really well in spring training. And a lot of these Japanese players, over there in Japan, it's not even spring training now.
It's too cold.
Yeah. So it's like 2 months from now where their season starts. So all these Japanese players, they're not even warmed up. They're pretty much going into a tournament not ready for it. And the same thing with Venezuela. All these guys, you're going into a tournament, and I know everybody has to deal with it, but I think it's a big problem. And I think that if you're going to play the WBC, knock out the All-Star game. That's my opinion. Nobody cares who wins the home run derby or who wins the All-Star game, and make this 3 years the All-Star week. That's what I would do with the All-Star 2 weeks. This is what they did with the Olympics. For Team USA hockey and hockey, is they made sure that there was no All-Star game. They made those 2 weeks for the hockey and the Olympics the All-Star game. Why doesn't the WBC do that? If they do that, you're going to see better baseball. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I think that it's going to come. John Smoltz was talking about that the other day, about how good it was. About 1.2, 1.8 people that attended to the games. I'm pretty sure that's a bigger attendance than any All-Star game ever that have ever been played. So rating wise, the money, the tickets, and the cost in tickets, I think that the revenue is going to be great. $7.5 million Venezuela is gonna pocket from winning the tournament. I don't know. Probably they're gonna have to do a good research in order to sell that idea to the owners, because you remember that every All-Star game, the owners, they get money from hosting the All-Star game. So that's going to be a very problematic, because you're going to have to do this series here in Miami, Houston, where the South American countries can come and watch the game. You cannot do this in Seattle, for example, to go play Venezuela in Seattle, or go play Venezuela in Kansas City, or DR in Colorado. It's too far for them. They're not going to attract any people. So they got to be very smart with the logistic about it. But I think it could be very, very good for the show, for the baseball.
Juan, you're from Venezuela, and I know a lot of Venezuelan people I've seen all over social media. They all broke down and cried after they won the WBC. Nobody expected this.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you got a chance to watch this game and see the final and watch your team, your country raise up and win that gold medal? What was it like? What did you feel inside?
Dude, it's hard to put into words, in perspective, like I said earlier in the show, because as a country, we have gone through so much, and then at the end of the game, the strikeout to end the game, and then you see the national anthem being played, and you see all those guys. I was watching the game while I was eating, and I remember hitting the table, and I say, "He's done." To my wife, it's unbelievable. I had to really. There has been some times that while I watch all the reviews and the country celebrating, it's been hard to follow to those tears, because it's very touchy. I think the country deserved it, the players deserved it, the fans, everybody. A dream come true.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You played with a guy in Joe Mauer, who was just recently inducted Hall of Fame catcher. I always thought him and Buster Posey were the two guys that kind of changed the catching position. When a lot of those guys were the bigger, bulkier guys before that you saw, and maybe not in the older days, like guys like Yogi Berra and Johnny Bench, but like a lot of those power hitting catchers and these good, really offensive catchers were like that. Now you're seeing those two guys, I think, really. One, what was he like as a teammate, you working with him as a relief pitcher and even off the field? And two, do you really think those two guys were the guys that changed the catching position?
Well, definitely, Bosser with that play at the plate definitely changed the contact play with the catcher. Even in the youth, 12, 11, 14, whatever, you're not allowed to make contact with the catcher because of Bosser Posey. So he can look back and sit back and say, "Listen, I did something for baseball in general, not just in the big leagues." Joe, I always say Joe is he was like a lady. Dude, that guy is soft spoken guy, very neat. Yeah, the guy was like struck out. I don't know. I don't ever think that he went over for one time, but he was so calm. Well, there was a time. This is a true story, right? There was a time that there was a position player show up late for a stretch, and I think that he had done it multiple times. So it was not for me to say anything about that because I was a pitcher, position player. You don't get to step in anybody's toes. So the guy goes, I say, Joe, what the hell? This guy is showing up late, and the guy goes, well, Wani, it's not my career. They're supposed to know. He was always and I wanna say this, and I have said this before. People said, well, Joe didn't have the numbers to go into the All Star game, into the Hall of Fame. But I'll tell you this: um, the kid was such a gentleman to the media that he never said no to any interviews. He never told, get the fuck out of here. I mean, I'm sorry, get out of here.
Right. All
I'm
right.
not I'm not gonna say anything to you. I'm not gonna talk to you. No, he was always very polite because he understood that was their job, to write and probably write whatever they were thinking about it. And so he was always very polite. So those guys that are not in the Hall of Fame, and they should have looked into this guy and say, well, I need to be like this guy if I want to go into the Hall of Fame. He had a tremendous numbers, 2,000 hit as a catcher. I don't know. I think a two or three batting titles. You don't get to see too many catchers winning a batting title, let alone two. And the guy was such a great guy, great teammate that he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. So I think both of them change the baseball one way or other.
By the way, we are talking a 10-year MLB reliever, Juan Ricon, pitched from 2001 to 2010 with the Twins, the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Rockies. It's so interesting when you watch pitchers and relief pitchers. Some of them have long careers and some of them don't have much of a career. And Jabba he's been a big part of this show. And Jabba had 3 years where he was just such a dominant relief pitcher. And then obviously the Yankees with the Jabba rules, and they didn't know if he was a starter, didn't know if he was a relief pitcher, and it kind of ruined his career. Eventually his arm went, and then he hurt himself on the trampoline, and his career was never the same. When you look at the game now with the new rules and some of the different training facilities that you have, do you think that if you played in the game now, you would have had a longer career than you did in the early 2000s?
I think I would have. The way that they're back in my days, it was like, oh, you're a pitcher, go run for 40 minutes. Now, no, I'm not kidding. It was just like that. Don't get too strong. Don't lift too heavy. Things like that. Don't do so many explosive exercises. Now they have all this technology, all these guys training. When I was in the minor, there was one conditioner trainer for the whole minor league system. Now they have even multiple conditioning trainers per level. They have mental coaches in English and in Spanish. They have all these equipment, gears, personal. It's unbelievable. Now they are telling you, don't throw Let's say, oh, Juan, this is the what the computer is saying. Don't throw your breaking ball when you're ahead in the count, and stick by that, and you're gonna be successful. So they're actually telling you what to do and what not to do, and it'd be very dumb for you not to freaking do it because the numbers are there. So I think I would have had, and I was because I think I would have had because I used to throw a cutter. My fastball, my four seam was a cutter. It was a natural cutter, and my slider. So I used to pitch up in the zone a lot. And back in the days, they used to teach you throw down in the zone. Now they teach you throw up in the zone because the uppercut swing that they're teaching nowadays, they're not gonna be able to catch up to this pitch. So I think that's what I would have believed that I would have a longer career. Now, also, back in my days, I think that I threw in 4 years in a row. I think that I threw 280 something games. Now you don't see that in the game. I started in 2003. I started a year in AAA and spent about a month in the minors. And I threw as a lone reliever 50 something games. And the next year I threw 77 games or something like that. And the next 2 years I threw 150 games combined, 77, 75, 75. You don't see that anymore, in the game. And I think, and also something that they're doing nowadays that they're bringing you up through the minor league system a little quicker. When you look at my numbers before I established myself in the big leagues in 2003, I probably had 700 innings in the minors, and I dominated the minor leagues. So now they're not wasting time, your prime, in the minors. You say, well, this guy had 300 innings in the big leagues and the minors, bring him up. The Twins already knew that I was going to be a reliever. There's a funny story because I was in AAA in Edmonton with Santana in 2002, and they had him in the bullpen, and they had me starting. Think about how wrong they had it, right? So then I gave up a lot of runs in one game, and he came up and he relieved me. And then the next outing, they go, listen, we're gonna switch. We've been talking about you being a reliever since you were in Double A. I don't know why they keep you starting. So if they knew in Double A, why are you gonna make me go back to Triple A and to throw 100 innings again before you give me a shot when I have thrown 400, 500 innings already in the minor league? So the baseball has changed because they have identified the fact that they're wasting all these bullets in the minors. Bring him up. That's why you're seeing 19, 20-year-old guys in the big leagues already because they don't want to waste their time in the minors or their prime.
You should have been the Mets. You should have been the Mets trainer. You could have told Noah Syndergaard not to do all those extra workouts to get himself to 230 pounds and then mess up his everything.
I'm telling you. Just look at back in my days, Brad Radke, Mike Musina, Andy Pettit. The only big guy that he stood up for me was Roger Clemens. But even Roy Halladay, there was a workhorse. He wasn't that strong. He was obviously he was strong. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like the guys that you see nowadays that they look like freaking bodybuilders, and they only last. Well, he's throwing 100, yeah, but he's gonna break down in 3 years because these guys, Justin Verlander, Kershaw, they're not that strong, and they were able to throw 10 years, 12 years, 15 years in the big leagues. Now these guys are getting way too strong. They're not doing that much of running. They're doing a lot of lifting. That's where I think they're breaking down more often.
It is crazy when I watch the game of baseball and people forget that baseball was in a strike time in the 90s. And now we're getting into another strike in 2027. There could be a full season of no baseball. And going into this season, watching the WBC and getting a chance to see all this stuff happen in the offseason and the deferred money, Kyle Tucker goes to the Dodgers. When you look at the game now, Juan, and a lot of players are questioning what the Dodgers are doing. Do you think that this is going to affect next year's strike? Do you believe that this could go on for a full season of no baseball because of what we've seen with the Dodgers and how the Dodgers have taken this deferred money, which has been around for a long, long time, but they've used it to their advantage where they've built a super team, which has hurt the game. And everybody says this is the Yankees. Oh, this was the Yankees in the 90s. It wasn't the Yankees in the 90s. The Yankees built through a prime of young players, and then they took veteran guys like Wade Boggs or Charlie Hayes or Scott Brocious or Tino Martinez or Paul O'Neill, and they mashed them together with youth and started to become a dynasty. This is not a team that had young players and then they're putting veteran players with them. This is all superstar players. Friedman, superstar. Mookie Betts, superstar. Ohtani, superstar. All this, Snell, superstar. Glasnow, superstar. All these guys are superstar players from their respectable teams. And everybody says, well, the Yankees did it, so I guess it's okay. What do you think about what the Dodgers have done to baseball?
So I'm going to ask you, you're asking me a question, I'm going to ask you a question or a few questions. Mookie Betts, where did he play before going to the Dodgers? Boston. And why did he got traded?
Well, he didn't get traded. He signed with the Dodgers.
Well, but he signed with the Dodgers because Boston didn't want to give him money.
Right.
Okay. What about Tyler Glasnow?
That was Tampa.
Okay, Tampa. And what happened? He went to Pittsburgh to Tampa in a trade, and then Tampa didn't want to pay him whatever. So the Dodgers came, let's come over here. I'm gonna pay you. You know, he's always hurt or whatever. What's the other guy?
No.
Okay, what about the first baseman for them that used to play Freeman? That the miscommunication with the GM, with the agent, whatever it was, but I think at the Braves took a little longer to offer him something. Am I right or wrong?
Yep.
So you can really punish a team that is willing to invest in all these superstars that these other teams are being cheap about it. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you could look at it that way, or you can look at it this way, and I look at it completely different. Yes, they gave Mookie Betts $300 million. Yes, they gave Friedman $100 and something million money that he wanted. But what they did is they used that deferred money and they said, you know what? We don't have to pay Mookie Betts the whole $300 million. We'll cut it in half and pay him that in increments for the next 12 years, and we don't have to worry about it. And Ohtani decided to go to the Dodgers. They gave him a $70 million a year contract. They gave him a lot of money, but they're only paying him $2 million a year, and he's not going to see that money until 12 years down the road. To me, they have spun the wheel and make the deal. And that's what they're doing. We're going to buy our way to a championship. We're going to build this where we're going to win multiple championships. And then whenever we're done dominating baseball, we'll sell the team, and whoever takes over this team has got to pay those guys in the future. To me, that affects the game. And now you're going to see going into the offseason, they're going to be talking about a salary cap, because I know everybody says there's no way the baseball union is going to allow that, but what happened this offseason? Who's running the baseball union now? We don't even know. So, I mean,
that was a shit show, to say the least, with that guy.
Clark's gone. So now you had the guy that was the face of the players and the players union. Now you're bringing a new guy that, by the way, the players are pretty much, he's a puppet to the players. How is this going to work when you're sitting in front of the owners, you're sitting in front of the commissioner, and you're trying to figure out how this deferred money has affected the game? And by the way, how are we going to go into another season with all this money going to these players where we're going to have $1 billion player in a year time or in 2 years time? Because we saw Juan Soto just get $68 million a year with the Mets. We know that, hey, look, Bo Bichette just got $48 million from the New York Mets to play third base when he's never played third base in his career. I mean, the money is ridiculous, and eventually something needs to be done. And I know a lot of people don't want to believe it, but it's coming. There has to be a cap.
I don't think that there will be a cap, and I'll tell you why. Because people are coming to watch the game. They're coming to watch the players. The owners are making money. If I can pay you $60 million, $40 million, it means that I'm making $1 billion. It means that I'm going to be selling, $1 million worth of merchandise with your name, just only your name. I know that I'm going to be, that's all being all studied. What I think it will help the whole situation is that they get a floor, salary floor from the owners. You know, you can now have the Marlins, for example. They have Osuna, they have Stanton, they have Arias, they have these other guys, and what they have done, they have traded them away because they want to keep a $40 million team. And you know, people just come, they watch, and they get the advertisement where they get the money from. They're not worried about winning. They're not worried about making money with the fans, with the tickets. Look at how packed the stadium was here in Miami. It was 43,000 people. I don't know how many people they got there. The tickets were about $2,500 per ticket, and that thing was freaking sold out. So what happens? The Marlins are not investing the money. It's just to say the Marlins. So the Dodgers did what they did. Everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody, it's not like they reinvented the wheel. Everybody knew that they were paying the money, just like the Mets did with Bobby Bonilla with the $1 million thing. And it's always been there. So now they were probably smarter than the other 2019 probably were. But they identified how they can bring people in. They went at it. They're winning. But then you have the Marlins, Kansas City. They have the Pittsburgh. They have the second best or third best ERA. And what they did, they fired the pitching coach. You know, so there has to be some repercussion for your team not being competitive.
We got to
Because if you
drop
if
that hammer
you
on.
if you're paying, if the Dodgers are paying, if the Mets are paying all these guys, it means that the owners are making money. They're not broke. They say, well, attendance is low. You don't make money from attendance. You make money from advertisement, TV deals, baseball cards. You know, the all the money that people pay for the all the things that they're sold to collectibles things. You know, all the stuff.
Collectible
So
items.
collectible items is it's one of the biggest business right now in the U.S. The collectible thing. So when you look back and say why are we gonna get a salary cap when the owners are making all this money? If you're paying all these guys all that money, it means that you have the money. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to afford them. See what I'm saying?
I got what you're saying. To me, I don't care about the owners. I care about me as a fan. I
Yeah.
don't want to see the Dodgers win every single year because they're buying their way to a championship. Nobody wants to see that. And everybody says, well, George Steinbrenner did that. George Steinbrenner did, and it wasn't even George, it was Hal that did it. Hal was the one that bought that championship in 2009 with CC Sabathia and AJ Burnett and Mark Teixeira because he wanted his father to see that championship in the new Yankee Stadium before he passed away because he was very sick. But the Yankees really have kind of swayed away from that. They're paying their players, but they're not the highest as far as salary caps. I think the Yankees are like 4th or 5th right now in baseball. They're
Yeah, the
not
Dodgers are first. Think of the Mets, and then Toronto are the third.
Toronto. I mean, the Yankees are not really up there anymore in the top 3, and the Yankees are still a really good team. I think the problem right now, and I think you're right, these teams need a floor, and I want to see competition. Why are the Dodgers just going all the way? And I'm not saying that the Dodgers couldn't have lost the World Series. They almost did, but because of their talent,
They were 2 inches, 3 inches away from losing.
yeah. But because of their talent and because of all the specific positions that they have that really the Blue Jays didn't have or anybody they matched up against didn't have, they had an advantage going into that game. Now, the United States had an advantage going into the Venezuela game. The United States had an advantage against practically every team that plays. So did Japan. So did the Dominican Republic. And that doesn't always happen. But if you look at percentages, and Juan, you as a baseball player, it's all about statistics, stats.
Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. If you look at the numbers here, the chances of the Dodgers not winning is probably no less than 60%. No
Yes.
less than 60% because of the talent that they have. And that to me is scary if you're a baseball fan. Why do I want to watch the Dodgers win every single year? Because they're buying their way to a championship. I have no interest in watching it. So, and everybody says, well, it was the highest watched game or highest watched series in a long, long time. Yeah, because it was the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays haven't
It's our
been there.
country.
Yeah, and it's Toronto.
It's the whole country
Yeah.
watching the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
And you
Japan.
have
And
and
Japan.
you have California, that is one of the most populated cities in the world.
Japan. That's what it was. It was
And
Otani, Sasaki, and all those other guys. It was all
Suzuki,
about
it was about those three guys
yeah.
in
It was all
Well,
about
you have
Japan.
Korea as well, so
Yeah. I mean, come on, that gets you sick to your stomach.
yeah.
So
But I think how you can balance that. For example, how good would have been the Marlins having all those 8 guys? I think it was that they traded away for nothing. Just tell me what the Marlins got from the Stanton trade.
they got nothing.
Nothing. You see what I'm saying? When they traded away the Bear, what's his name? The left fielder. They went to the Braves.
Ozuna.
Osuna. Why did they just name me one guy that out of that trade?
They got nothing.
Nothing. So, but why did they trade them away? Because of money. So when you start penalizing those teams, listen, you got to spend $40 million. You cannot have a budget of $38 million nowadays when they have the freaking Dodgers in 500, $600 million. Stupid. You're not gonna be able to compete. But for them, it's about to make money. It's not about competing. And for Steinbrenner, it was about competing. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference of mentality. The Dodgers, they want to compete. They're gonna get their money back. San Diego has done the same thing. Nobody talks about that because they haven't win. See what I'm saying?
I got
So
it. I just think the Dodgers already made their money back.
yeah, they
Having
made their money back for
Ohtani-
sure. How did they
Oh,
make their money back? Winning.
Ohtani.
Yeah, but
well,
winning.
yeah.
Winning.
Well-
You go to Kansas City when they were winning. What did they do? They packed the stadium every single day.
Yep.
Back in the day, the Angels that they sold, they were sold out for I don't know how many years in a row because they have a competitive team. You put competitive teams on the field, and the fans are gonna show. But when you have those low market teams that they're not putting any effort to bring better teams, it's easy to point fingers. Oh well, the Dodgers are winning because well, you can do the same thing, maybe not in such a big scale, but you can put a competitive team on the field. That's what I'm saying. So I think that the salary cap as a former player will hurt the game
I got it. Well, and
because
I know.
I
I'm
don't
looking
know.
at-
I don't know if this is true, but every year in spring training, the player associations comes to talk to every single team, and it's about 3 hour meeting. It's a long meeting, but they go into every single detail, conversations, what's it looking like. It's unbelievable. And when Donald Fair was the president of the player association, that to me is the best that I have seen. Well spoken guy, very, very smart. He would be very detail orientated. He went to hockey. Hockey back in the days, he had a salary cap. And the salary cap, in my understanding, don't kill me. I don't know. This is what I'm gonna sell it at face value. Okay. So if your team, the salary cap was $40 million and your team was at 38, for example, and they would have bring halfway through the season a guy making $10 million, the $5 million remain in the country in the contract. The three, because you were at 38 to get to 40, the $3 million was gonna be paid by the players. They were gonna take a cut from their salary to pay for that. The players didn't get any revenues from TV, from tickets, for nothing, and that's why they went to strike. That was when Donald Fair, I don't know, 15 years ago. I don't remember how long it was. And what do they do now? Now they have one of the best contracts, one of the best salary, because you go watch a game. I don't watch hockey, but every time that I watch a game, the freaking arena is packed. You know, and everybody's getting their money. You don't hear about strikes or anything like that. But players, the Major League Baseball is always wanted to control the salary cap because they will control the game, and that's what they want. I don't think that is gonna help the game at all.
Well, I just want to let
Again,
you.
that's my understanding about what happened
I'm
with
just
hockey.
gonna let you know. Hockey only the most you can pack out I think is 16,000. I mean, they don't pack out.
Yeah, they're not big. No, they're not big.
55.
But the salaries are not
No,
comparable to the
no,
baseball salaries. And
no.
they play a third of what they
But
play in the big leagues as well.
Juan, they're getting up there. I mean, the highest paid player right now in the NHL is making $20 million. I mean, that's pretty good for and it plays for Edmonton. He's the best player in the world. Just letting you know. But
Who's that?
it's interesting. Connor McDavid. He's making 21 million.
He plays in Edmonton.
Edmonton, yes.
I play in Edmonton 1 year. Coldest place on earth. I mean, makes Minnesota feel like a freaking beach trip. Oh my god!
Errol will go over and walk
I love
around
it.
in shorts.
I love it. I love the
Say that
cold.
again.
I love
No,
it.
listen. I love the cold, but not when I have to stand out there for 8 hours.
I got you. But we were outside on a football field, and it was like 30 degrees, and my feet were cold, because you're not moving around, and you start to get frozen.
That kills you. Yeah, it kills you. Yeah.
As a pitcher, especially, you're on a mound.
Oh.
And you got to throw. It's definitely cold. But Juan, we got to get you back on the show. You're fantastic, and
Thank you.
And we go back and forth, and I agree with a lot of things you said, but the deferred money, I beg to differ. Maybe we'll talk off air one of these days. I think
That's fine.
Absolutely.
But again, I don't think that it will. As a former player, I don't think that it will help the. I'm always gonna cheer for the players.
I know. A lot of the players won't. So.
Yeah, but I don't think that it will help the game, because then the owners are gonna pocket all the money, and people are not coming to watch. The owners are coming to watch the Otanis. You cannot even name the owner of Pittsburgh, top of your head, but I can bet you that you can name the best pitcher on that rotation.
Yeah, Paul Skeens.
Paul Skeens. You see what I'm saying? So, and I bet you that you can name the best hockey player for Edmonton, but you don't know the owner.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I
So-
mean, the owners don't want to be known; they just want to make their money. But I got
They want to make their money, yeah. But they stay behind the scenes, and they want to make they're businessmen. Some of them are just they're just to make money, and that's it, and that's pretty understandable. But we're gonna have a salary cap. They got to be a floor cap as well.
I agree with you. I agree with that. But we'll see what happens. But we appreciate you joining us.
But I think it's gonna be a strike, to be honest.
Yes.
I don't think that we as players or we as fans are gonna be able to escape that.
I absolutely agree with you, and I'm interested to see what Rob Manfred or Manfred as Manfool, as we call him, Manfool on this show, how that's going to work with that guy leading the way as the commissioner of baseball. So that's just my opinion. But
yeah, it's gonna be interesting, because now the head of the player association, they whatever is so stupid what he was doing, or he was allegedly doing, because I wasn't even there to know for real what he was doing. But
come on, just say he was
stupid.
sleeping with his sister-in-law. We know what he was doing. He was.
Oh well, I actually forgot about that, because I was talking about the money that he was paying his cousin or whatever. I mean, so stupid, man. And the player association.
He was.
Think about this.
Man. He was.
Yes. Think about this. The player association is the strongest union in the world. The baseball player association, because the lowest income of a guy is what, $700,000.
Yes.
And you have I don't know how many people, 800 people in the Major League Baseball any given day, and you have guys making $60 million, or the lowest paid salary is $700,000. That unit has a lot of power.
It sounds like it. Juan, we love you. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you, brother. Okay, guys. Nice being here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. We love it. We love it. You're great. You're sensational. You know your baseball. We definitely got to get you back on the show. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Sounds good. Let me know.
Juan Racone, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you something. The knowledge that this man has, he knows the baseball union. We can go back and forth. There are things that I can argue with some of his takes, but he knows, because he's been a part of the game and he's been a part of the association. But it's kind of interesting how baseball has allowed the Dodgers to get away with what they've gotten away with. And a lot of Dodger fans can't stand the way I attack them. But here's the facts. The Dodgers are an organization that will continue doing this if they don't do something about it. And it has nothing to do with the owners making money. I could care less what the owners make. But as a fan, and I want to go watch competitive baseball, that's not fair. That's not fair to watch this team add Kyle Tucker to a roster that has Shohei Ohtani, Friedman, Betts, a pitching staff that's ridiculous. I mean, they have Muncy. They've got so many great players on that roster. It makes you sick to your stomach. So that's my argument to it. But hey, listen, it's in the rule book. I mean, it's not in the rule book that you can't do this. And that's why I think baseball needs to do something about it during the strike. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we call this Alrighty Then.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then. Welcome back to our literary segment. Alrighty then. We're going to take a look at one of Errol's articles on worldwidesportsradio.com, where if you haven't been to our website, you can catch all of our greatest clips that you've seen. If you haven't missed anything in the last couple of weeks.
You're a little muffled over there. What's going on over there?
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell. Maybe it's because I have this, what do you call it, voice? Like a radio voice these days. You think it's going to become more of a radio voice?
I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not a radio voice.
Well, what would you call it? I need to know because it would be great to know.
There it is. I would call that Fuzz Bucket. There we go.
Fuzz Bucket.
I don't know what to call it. It was muffled. So it sounded like there
muffled.
was
there it is.
It sounded like a fur ball in your mouth. That's what it sounded like.
Fur ball in my mouth. Well, I'm not going to have a fur ball in my mouth right now as we go through this awesome article on the worldwidesportsradio.com. Here it is. Take a look on the screen if you're watching with us. And if you don't have this on video, which is completely fine, a lot of us are on audio on Apple. And as of today, or as you know, we are ranked number 75 out of all football podcasts on Apple Podcasts in America, which is our fourth straight day in the top 100.
I just want to tell all the fans, everybody asked me, why are we under football when we're an all valued, rated show when it comes to sports? And here's the facts. There are more football podcasts on Spotify and Apple than any other sport. And we wanted to compete against the top football shows to see where we lie with all those statistical shows. So, and to say that we're ranked 72nd, 75th?
Yeah.
75th out of over 18,000 podcasts around the country that have the money behind them and the networks behind them says a lot about what we are and what we're doing right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, so here it is. Pinstripes, power, and pure chaos. Which damn Yankees team was actually the greatest ever? We have these articles up on Reddit. There's a lot of comments. Speedy's going to go through some of these comments after I read you guys an excerpt. And again, if you're only listening to us on audio, you can catch us on video, I believe, both on Apple and Spotify. A lot of Spotify viewers on subscription already. All right, here we go. Before we dive into the greatest teams in the history of the New York Yankees, we need to address the elephant in the Bronx, the championship drought. The Yankees used to win so often that the rest of Major League Baseball basically felt like extras in a Yankees documentary. But since the champagne showers of the 2009 World Series, things have been a little dry. And by dry, I mean the kind of drought that has Yankee fans pacing around the Bronx like caffeinated pigeons wondering if October is still on the calendar. But before we crown the greatest Yankees team ever, we need to look back through the decades of dominance, chaos, superstars, and enough Hall of Famers to fill half of Cooperstown. The 1930s Yankees Murderers Row reloaded. Key players Joe DiMaggio, Bill Dickey, Red Ruffin, Joe Gordon, manager Joe McCarthy. 1939 Yankees won 106 games, swept the World Series like they were late for dinner reservations. Other teams had stars. These Yankees had a solar system. 1950s Yankees baseball's royal family. Key players Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, Roger Maris, manager Casey Stengel. 77-78, the Bronx Zoo. And as you keep going, 1980s Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1990s Yankees, 1991 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1992 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1993 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1994 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1995 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1996 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1997 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1998 Yankees, great players, no rings. Late 90s Yankees, the baseball Death Star. 1999 Yankees, great play ranking the greatest Yankees team ever. Here it is. Yankees 1998. Baseball perfection, number 1. Number 2, 1939 Yankees, overwhelming dominance. Number 3, 1953 Yankees, 5 straight championships. 4, 1977 talent and chaos. And 5, 2009, the last championship team. The greatest Yankees team ever assembled, the 1998 Yankees. Debating the greatest Yankees team, however, is like arguing which Lamborghini is the fastest. Speedy.
All right, so mixed bag here of agreements and disagreements. We'll start with one that was kind of a split. This is traditional half 842, 1927 or 1939. He says you can't really compare the free agency era to the stacked rosters of old when you have to home grow it. 1927 Yankees at 872 OPS as a team and a 125 WRC plus. But the pitching staff was better in 1939, especially after losing, obviously, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig.
Very, very interesting. And I agree. Thank you, Traditional, for giving us your take. And it's interesting when you look at 1927 or 1939 and try to compare both teams. And now looking at the statistics, and you say, well, you can't look at that, but then you bring up the statistics. That's the thing. And then the transition of the game and now adding WAR and adding all these statistics, you can actually look at those teams and compare those teams to now the new age teams because of all the statistics and what the analytics are showing you now. I still think the 98 Yankee team is the best team. They won more games. And even though they didn't have the stars that the 1927 Yankees and the 1939 Yankees had, they were just more consistent than those teams. So that's why I went with the 1998 Yankees.
All right, so this one agreed with you. Grissom Stash says 1998, 125 and 50 total record, including the postseason, and sweeping the Padres in the World Series.
And the Padres weren't a good team. I mean, Cam Caminiti was their best player.
That's kind of why I brought it up.
Yeah, and may rest in peace. Cam was on steroids, and a lot of people say steroids. That was when the steroids time was at its worst. But here's the facts. It didn't matter who they played in the World Series. The Yankees were going to kill them. They were just so good. Their pitching staff, their bullpen. If you look at their pitching staff, it was ridiculous. They had David Wells. They had Roger Clemens. I mean, they were stacked from top to bottom. Andy Pettit. I mean, this was one of the best pitching staffs ever assembled. And if you look at their bullpen, they were pretty damn good too. So, I mean, they had Mariano Rivera as their closer. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, here's the facts. The 98 Yankees were so dominant and so good, it didn't matter who was hitting ninth or who was hitting first. So I absolutely agree with you, Grissom, and I agree with you. 98 Yankees were the best Yankee team of all time.
All right, next one is Chiquita OK85. He says easily 1927. There's a reason they got the nickname Murderer's Row.
Chiquita, thank you for your take. And I agree. I agree with you. A Murderer's Row was sensational. Think about the talent that they had. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I mean, wasn't that Murderer's Row? Everybody talks about how those two players, I mean, Babe Ruth was the greatest, I believe, the greatest baseball player of all time. And Lou Gehrig, 3,000 games in a row. I mean, he was as good a hitter as Babe Ruth was. And when you look at that lineup, it was stacked from top to bottom. So I agree with you. They had the most stars and they had the biggest. Actually, I don't even know if they had the most stars. I think a little bit later with Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Whitey Ford. Those teams had a lot of stars too. So, but that roster in the middle of that lineup having Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, I mean, you can argue any one of these teams would fit there as number one. But again, the 98 Yankees, 120 and 50 throughout the regular season and playoffs. No Yankee team's ever done that. And it's talk about hitting superstars. Who was their best hitter that year? Really? Who was their best hitter? Bernie Williams? Paul O'Neill? I mean, are they Hall of Famers? They're not. I'm just saying.
No, especially how stingy the Baseball Hall of Famers with Don Mattingly. Those guys aren't getting in. All right, let's go to the next one. Kaiser Soze 96. 1939 was the most impressive championship team after losing Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, but Murderer's Row still the best overall.
Again, Lou Gehrig, and thank you to Kaiser. Thank you for your take on that. 1939 Yankees were a great team. They were great. And the 1927 Yankees, Murderer's Row, Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth were sensational players. They're two of the best, two of the greatest hitters of all time, not just in that era, of all time. But and 1939 was good. And the 1950 Yankees were really, really good too. And the 1970 Yankees, the Bronx Zoo, they were great too when they added Reggie Jackson to that roster and Thurman Munson. I mean, are you going to tell me that Reggie Jackson and Thurman Munson were two of the best at their positions of all time? They were. They're both Hall of Famers. So I understand how everybody's comparing it. It's just a take. I still think the 98 Yankees, for what they did with less of superstar talent, was more impressive.
All right, last one, we'll round it out with the 98 Yankees. Truth Seeker 04 says Yankees were the best team in MLB history. Hard stop.
No question. Thank you, Truth Seeker. I agree with you. The 98 Yankees. And here's the thing. If you look at the rosters, besides Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, and some of the Yankee players that they built through their farm system, and they did add Roger Clemens, and David Wells was good, and David Cohn was a good pitcher. They're all great pitchers. When you look at just straight up talent, it was built through their farm system. Andy Pettitte was arguably one of the greatest pitchers the Yankees have ever had. He came from the Yankees farm system. Jorge Posada should be considered a Hall of Famer. This guy's statistics, as far as a catcher's concerned, you can compare him to Johnny Bench or any one of those guys that are in the Hall of Fame. But this guy barely got 10% of the votes, and that's why he's never going to be on the ballot again. Bernie Williams, one of the most underrated playoff players of all time. You're going to tell me this guy wasn't as good a two-way player as we've ever seen the Yankees have? But they're not Babe Ruth. They're not Joe DiMaggio. They're not Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, even Aaron Judge, because of just the way the transition was from the 90s, from the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, and everything like that. But my argument would not argue that 98 wasn't the best team because of what lack of talent, lack of superstars they had, and still did it with the players and won at a dominant fashion. So that's my take. The 98 Yankees is the greatest Yankee team because they did it without. And Derek Jeter was a star, but he wasn't a superstar in 98. Remember, he came up in 95, 96. He won his first World Series in 96. 98, Derek Jeter was 3 years into the league. He wasn't even a captain of the team. So he didn't become the captain until 99, I think. So my argument here is Derek Jeter was still a young man. He was 23, 24 years old when he was at when the Yankees were at that high level. So that's just my argument. Okay. Everybody's got their own opinion, and I love it. Thank you for all the fans that have reached out to us and answered and argued their points. I love it, and that's why I keep writing and I keep posting stories for everybody to read because I want them to enjoy it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get into some baseball as we're going to get into the American League and National League Central preview. The Tigers open up as betting favorites to win the American League Central at a +110, followed by the Royals at +225 and the Guardians at +425. The Tigers were able to keep Gleyber Torres on his qualifying offer, brought back Justin Verlander, signed Kenley Jansen, and their big move was signing Framber Valdez for a 3-year, $115 million deal. The Royals had a quiet offseason, mostly extending their own players, including Salvatore Perez and Vini, how do you pronounce that
Pasquantino.
Pasquantino for 2 years. Michael Garcia, right? Michael Garcia for 5 years. The Guardians also were pretty quiet, only signing 3 relief pitchers, but did lock up Jose Ramirez for another 4-year, $106 million extension, which will be added onto his current contract, keeping him with the Cleveland Guardians until 2032. So he's going to retire as a Guardian. The Cubs opened as betting favorites in the National League Central at +110. The Brewers at plus 250, the Reds at plus 450, and the Pirates at plus 600. The Pirates made some moves to improve their lineup depth, trading for second baseman Brandon Lowe and signing first baseman Ryan O'Hearn and DH Marcell Ozuna. The Reds brought in 3 new relief pitchers, but their big move is bringing back WBC hero Suarez, who hit 49 home runs last season. The Brewers were able to bring back pitcher Brandon Woodruff on a qualifying offer, but traded Freddie Peralta to the Mets for pitching prospect Brandon Sproat and infielder prospect Jet Williams. The Cubs traded for Marlins pitcher Edwin Cabrera, brought back Shota, how do you pronounce this? Imanaga, whatever, on a qualifying offer, and signed Alex Bregman to a 5-year, $175 million deal. By the way, Bregman, who didn't show up to the WBC, he really didn't show up. Out of all the players, he was the one that didn't show up, and he just made himself almost $200 million in the offseason by the Cubs. It's interesting to look at the Tigers and not think that the Tigers, even with the additions that they made, are not the favorites to come out of the Central. And Central, to me, every single year is up and down. The Guardians always find a way in the second half of the season to get back to that second or first place position and run away with the division. They do it every single year. It's pretty amazing. We talk to Nick Goody all the time. He worked with the Guardians last year, and I went back and forth with him. He told me, don't be surprised if the Guardians come back and win the division. And what happens? Yeah, they did that. So I'm not going to bet out. I'm not going to bet against the Guardians at a plus 425. If you're a betting man, I would bet that plus 425. I would, because I don't trust the Tigers. Even bringing back Justin Verlander, the old man Justin Verlander. Gleyber Torres was good last year, but is he going to be consistent? Remember, he only got brought back with a qualifying offer. So he's going to be a free agent again next year. So he's going to want to play, and he's going to want to play hard. Kenley Jensen was an interesting signing. He's a good relief pitcher. He was the closer for the Dodgers for many, many years. And Framber Valdez, he's another guy that's very interesting to this roster as well. So the Tigers are good. They got a lot of good young players. We're going to see a lot of good young players come up from their farm system. They're loaded. They're loaded. And to add players and pieces the way they did this offseason, it's very Detroit not-esque, because they don't usually do that. They usually, over the last couple of years, they've taken their money and thrown it into some of the younger players, and they're doing what the Braves are trying to do, keep their younger players and make sure that they don't go to arbitration. And that's what the Tigers are going to try to do. And they're not going to be able to do that with Tarek Skubal. And Tarek Skubal is going to go to free agency because he's going to make himself $500 million, if not next year, the year after, whenever the strike is over. The Royals, Witt is a great player. He will be up for an MVP once again, as expected. Salvador Perez, we know how great of a catcher he is. He won the WBC. He was one of the leaders for that Venezuela team. So you like Salvador Perez, and you want to bring back a veteran captain of that magnitude. But I don't trust the Kansas City Royals. I don't think they're going to be any good this year. I think they're going to be chasing, and Brandon and a guy like Witt, and eventually a guy that is going to have to be traded. There's no way they're going to be able to keep Witt. As good as he is, teams are going to be gunning for him when he becomes arbitrated, or even becomes 1 year or 2 years left on his contract, and which is coming up very, very soon. So Witt is going to be a free agent. Teams like the Yankees, who are going to need a shortstop for their future, if one of these guys, Lombard, or one of these guys don't work out, Volpe, I could see that happening. So very, very interesting. The Reds, as far as the Central is concerned, here's the thing. I think the Cubs are going to run away with this division. I do. I think the Cubs, even though the Brewers had a great season, I don't know if the Brewers are going to be able to do it again this coming year. I think the Cubs adding a Bregman, they've got some good depth in that lineup now, in the middle of that lineup, and they got a good pitching staff. I can't see the Cubs not winning this division this year, but don't be surprised if the Brewers are going to be chasing them. And the Reds, I think I could see 3 teams making the playoffs, 2 wild card teams, and one of these teams going to win the division. This is probably, besides the Dodgers division. Now, the reason why I say the Dodgers, because we don't know what the Diamondbacks are going to be. And we don't know what the Padres are going to be, because the Padres, for some reason, can't stay healthy. Tatis and Machado. How long are they going to keep those 2 guys on the same roster? But I will say this. I think the Cubs have more depth this year than they did last year. I think they're the better team. The Reds, watch out for them. They're going to start off really, really strong. And we'll see if they're going to. Last year, they started off very slow, but I think this year they're going to start off really, really strong. We'll see if they tail off. They really picked up the pace in the second half of the season when the Mets kind of fell apart. Yeah. I want to see how they do this year with some of the additions. And are the Pirates going to be that bad this year? Paul Skeens is looking to be traded. They added Ozuna. They added some pieces, something the Pirates never do. The reason why they brought Ozuna is because they're trying to get some draft stock or a farm hands in the future and move Ozuna when free agent or when the trade deadline comes around. That could be something that they're looking for to do. But I think it's the Cubs, the Brewers, the Reds. That's where I would go in the Pirates. But I think the Cubs want to run away with the division this year.
Yeah, the Cubs, I think, are the second best team on paper in the National League after the Dodgers. I think the Cubs have had a good farm system for a while. A lot of these young pitchers are going to play bigger roles in it this year. You saw the bullpen kind of emerge in the second half when I thought they didn't do enough at the trade deadline. They actually did very well, and I think they definitely made their mark. Now, it's interesting because the Brewers are still going to be right there, too. I've thought the same thing with their developmental process. Like, how long could they keep this process up? Getting rid of these players. I thought they missed the playoffs last year and they still did very well. I thought Cincinnati was better than them and they still got in. And yeah, I'm not going to fall for that kind of thing again. And the Brewers, I think, still can win the division because they've owned the Cubs head to head recently. So that could help them win the division. The Cubs, I think, has more talent to make a World Series run. That's another question. We'll see if anyone can beat the Dodgers, but you're right. The Padres are one of my drop-offs, so I think there could be a window for the Reds maybe to get in as that other young team. And now, Fish, we talked about it earlier this week. Hunter Green already hurt. How much is that going to affect their rotation? I think they still have a pretty deep rotation as a whole. The Reds was one team they couldn't get the pitching and hitting going at the same time last year. Like when their hitting did well when the pitchers were hurt, the pitching didn't do well. Then the offense went cold kind of in the second half of the season, but just enough because the Mets had that historic collapse. They were still able to get in the playoffs. So there's a window for that. The Pirates, we'll see if they can get the pieces together on offense. Fish, I think you brought it up last month or so. They kind of spent a lot in order to get it. Can they make all of it work? That's another question. In the American League, I'm with you on the Guardians. I think the Guardians were behind, they were not expected because they didn't. I know they went to the ALCS the year before, but they lost a lot of pieces. And their young kids didn't come up for the whole season yet. Now you're going to get a full year with Manzardo, who's a good prospect. Chase Delaudier, a good prospect. I know Goody was talking about that. I think they were actually playing with house money essentially last year, and now I think they're going to have even more of a well-rounded identity all season long, where they don't have to just rely on we're going to play hot in the second half because we're not expected to do well because Clase got suspended and all that betting scandal over their heads. And that's the other thing with the Tigers. How much are they going to let the drama of Skubal affect them? Are they going to have enough veteran leadership with these other guys to not let that be a distraction for them all year? Because the American League is going to have tougher divisions with the West and with the East, where you might be out of the playoffs if you let that thing get into you.
Yeah, Speedy, I think that the biggest move that was made by any team was getting Framber Valdez in the offseason, because if they lose Skubal, now they still have a guy that can, he's a number 2, but he could be poor man's ace, going forwards. He's a really good pitcher. He's a left-handed pitcher. Now they have 2 lefties with him and Skubal. The rest of that rotation, a little hit or miss. Casey Mize, more of a depth starter, had a good first half of the season.
To our own, yeah.
Kind of fell off in the second half. Framber Valdez has elite upside, tied for the most wins since he's become a starting pitcher since 2020. This is a real dude. Obviously played for a really good Houston team. Easier to get wins there. Wins is not a perfect statistic to go by, but no one's going to say he wasn't a top 15 pitcher in that time. No one's going to say that. Maybe in the last few years, closer to top 20, top 25 at worst. But I would still say he's top 15, top 20. And that's great to add on. And in case they lose him, the biggest question mark in that division, in my opinion, though, is Kansas City. And you say it, Errol, but there's a guy that they didn't have last year. And until the very end of the season, when Cole Reagans came back and made 3 electric starts like we thought he could do, he's a real number one, in my opinion. He flashed a lot. I know Jabba loved him, would talk about him a lot as well. His stuff was electric, maybe a little too electric to maintain the arm health. But if he's back, that gives them a whole nother dimension. That's like giving them a Garrett Cole, at the beginning of the season type of talent. Like, that's how good he could be. Like, his ceiling is outrageous, in my opinion. So
it's interesting. It really is. I don't think even with Reagan playing at a high level, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I mean, the Cubs are that much better than them, and I do believe Milwaukee. We're talking about Kansas City. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I'm talking about in the AL, like, because you don't know with that Cleveland lineup, Speedy. Like, you see these names, but I'm gonna have a fantasy baseball draft this weekend, and I'm gonna tell you 0 of those guys are gonna be drafted. Maybe very late.
It doesn't matter. It's the way they play as a team.
I know.
And I believe they're very well managed. They have one of the better managers, one of the more underrated managers in all of baseball. And I'm not talking about Francona because he's not running that organization. He's running Cincinnati. So I think, didn't he win Manager of the Year?
Vote, yes.
Yeah. So I think that we're going to see how this team does with less. And we've seen it every single year. They start off really, really slow last year. They were really bad. And then after the All-Star break, slowly but surely, they got back into it and then eventually took over and knocked the Tigers out of first place, which was shocking because the Tigers were so much better than they were all season long until really 25, 30 games left of the season. It was pretty impressive what the Guardians did, but Kansas City is not going to be any good. And they're going to have to decide what they're going to be doing with because he is not staying with that organization.
Yeah, the other problem, even amidst the other pitching injuries, Fish, was the fact that their offense never got going all year depth-wise, outside of maybe Garcia had a nice year. Like, their pitching, they had Cameron that pitched well. You had Chris Bubik, who pitched well before he got hurt. He was an all-star. He was like the second or third highest at the all-star voting for a while with pitchers until he got hurt. That just their offense was so terrible. I think they were third worst OPS as a team or something.
Well,
before we move on, you mentioned the Reds before, and I love Francona. That's where he is now. They have Hunter Green, who's going to be out till at least July, but it's going to be right around the trade deadline. Now, Chase Burns is also hurt. He's their prospect. I don't know how much he's going to be able to go this year. If they suffer one more injury, and Lodolo, who's their next best pitcher, is an injury risk, you now have a team that might free fall, and they might sell off a piece. And even though he hasn't pitched all season, Hunter Green might be the top name at the trade deadline that any team is going to be dying to get, because you're not going to get a guy who throws over 100 on average from anywhere else. And it's going to be pretty awesome, the competition for him. If this is what I think that really might happen, because that's competitive, that division. And if they don't have enough pitching to get through the first half of the season, they should sell because they got enough talent for the future.
I think they're going to be fine. I really do. I think Francona is a great manager. He finds ways to win games, and I think he will find a way to keep this team in that race and see how healthy they can get. Or maybe Cincinnati makes a trade here or there to keep them out of harm's way where they can compete. So I still think Francona. I would bet that Francona is going to figure it out. All right, we call this the NFL whip around.
Whip around.
All right, guys, let's go to the whip around. Errol, I wanted us to really kind of focus in on a couple of things that the Miami Dolphins did. So let's actually start with the first big deal. Is they traded Jalen Waddle away to the Denver Broncos. They got a first and a third, but had to swap fourths, right, Speedy? So it was like a little bit less than a first and a third in value is what they got back for a high-priced receiver. Again, they're selling everybody away, but now Sean Payton gets to put Jalen Waddle, who's had some back issues and hamstring stuff over the years, but nothing major, across from Cortland Sutton, And that's not a bad kind of tandem right there for Bo Nix.
I don't know what Miami is doing, but to me, the AFC is going to be going through the Broncos. You have Waddle and Courtland Sutton, and if a healthy Bo Nix with that defense and that offensive line, one of the best offensive lines in football, and probably you could argue one of the great coaches, one of the top 3 coaches in all of the NFL, the weakness was their wide receivers. And now you add one of the fastest wide receivers on your roster. It is a slam dunk for the Broncos. And guess what? Guess who's paying most of that salary? It's not the Broncos. It's Miami. So Miami got a first and a third. Great for them. I mean, it helps them. And they're probably sucking for Arch because that's what they're doing. They want to bring in a name that fans are going to want to watch year in and year out. I don't know if the Mannings are going to allow that to happen, but nevertheless, that's what I believe they're doing because that's what the ownership wants to happen. But this is, to me, I thought it was going to be Buffalo. Now it's going to go through the Broncos, and they're by far are the best team in their division. I don't think you can argue that. Kansas City has not done enough to tell me that they have enough to beat this Broncos defense.
No, and you look at a team that didn't have a separator. The Bills were the same kind of thing. They traded for DJ Moore.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a guy that could separate. The Broncos were that same kind of thing. And I remember last offseason, you were arguing with our boy Lance Sanderson about the Broncos should have traded for T. Higgins when they had the chance.
And who did he like?
Yeah, Bryant, I'm aware.
Where is he?
3rd or 4th on their depth chart.
No,
now.
5th on their depth chart now.
Yeah.
5th.
And that's why
he's never going to play.
That's why they.
I can't wait to get Sanderson back on this show.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be excited about this trade though. They get somebody.
Yeah, he's probably coming in his pants.
Be a precise route runner for an offense that definitely need another deep threat too. Courtland Sutton's a good big body possession type guy, and now you get somebody that complements him well. In Miami, yep, this is a part of the whole tanking operation. They tried it 7 years ago, tanked for Tua, and you kept Chris Greer as your GM, and you see what happens.
Let's talk about that tank for Tua a little bit more in depth. I got these cap figures, so it's a historic number, Errol. But let me just give you just ballpark. The salary cap is $301.2 million this year. $175 million is more than half of that number. The Dolphins have about 58-ish, 57-ish% of their of the full league salary cap, which means you don't have to go all the way up to that in dead cap money for this coming year. Here's the guys that they owe it to. The dead cap figure for this year, $67.4 million of the $99.2 for Tua is for this year. $28.2 for cutting Tyreek Hill. $26.3 for trading Jalen Waddle. $20.9 on Jalen Ramsey still. $13 million on Minkah Fitzpatrick, and $10.9 on the recently departed Bradley Chubb. That's crazy.
I don't know what this team is doing, but obviously the owner is one of the richest owners in professional football. So him throwing away a couple $100 million is really nothing. So to him, it's all about rebuilding because that's what Miami does. That's what the Jets do. That's what the Browns do. And it's a laughing stock. It's just absolute a debacle when you see Jalen Waddle get traded to the Broncos. Yeah, they got something back for him. They got a first and a third. And Tyreek Hill getting dropped, and all these guys are getting dropped. Tua making all that money, and he's sitting pretty. Did anybody sign him yet? I don't even think anybody signed him yet. Why does he even want to go anywhere? He doesn't have to. He could sit on his ass for the next year, make his money.
Tua?
Yeah.
Tua's on the Falcons.
Oh, he
to
went
back to another lefty to be with Penix.
That's right, Penix. I remember that. It's not going to work over there because they have two guys that can't stay healthy. So, and by the way, that's what Ryan wanted. That's what Ryan said. Well, Penix isn't my guy. I don't know if so I'm going to bring in Tua. That makes a lot of sense. The only thing that makes sense is he doesn't have to pay that salary. The Miami Dolphins have to pay that salary. That's about the only thing he won on this deal.
Yeah, it's interesting because the comparison of the tank for Tua versus this new movement. The Dolphins were kind of have been stuck in mediocrity for a while. They were a badly run team for sure, but I don't think they always seem like they're in that 5 to 8 win range every year. They're not like the 2-win team like you see the Browns and the Raiders sometimes, but maybe now they will go to be finalists.
They're not going to win one game this year.
They might not, which happened in 2007 before they could have drafted Matt Ryan.
They are by far going to be the worst team in the league. They're going to Guarantee, book it. If there's any bet right now, who is the worst team in the NFL this year? It is my bet. Miami won't win one game this year.
So they're going to win one game and beat the Jets? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're not going to win one game. The Jets are going to win both games against them.
All right. Dolphins 0-17. All right.
I feel like they're trying. It's not even officially spring until 20 minutes from now.
Who's their quarterback?
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. I rest my case.
The Packers backup.
Who
was a third-round pick a couple of years ago.
They paid him a lot of money too. What a joke!
They paid him something in the high 20s, Speedy, I believe.
You have 22 a year, I believe.
They signed him for a 3-year deal, right?
Yeah,
3 years.
It's like 2 years are going to be like paid for. So, yeah. So talking about jokes, it wasn't a joke to Max Crosby what happened to him in this deal, and he finally let it all out and vented to the media on his podcast, The Rush with Max Crosby, 2 days ago. So he described it as a wild up and down roller coaster. He was livid and confused. He learns of the trade. They told him he's a Baltimore Raven. He was frozen. He flies to D.C. and then has to drive 2 hours to Baltimore for some reason, a trip he called Weep. And then he spent 5 hours at the Ravens facility for medical text. But the general manager, Eric DaCosta, was MIA for those 5 hours, and the energy was weird and blank-faced when they finally met. The Ravens doctors raised red flags about his knee. Crosby thought he was going to have another surgery. He contacted his surgeon, Dr. Neil Elatrash, who said, "Don't listen to that crap. Your knee is great." They just 5 minutes after a Ravens staffer reassured him the deal would get done, his agent called to say they backed out, and then he was flown back on a private jet provided by the Ravens, arriving after midnight. Despite the ordeal, he woke up at 5 in the morning, or just before 5 in the morning the next morning, at a Raiders rehab facility, saying he's meant to be a Raider. It's in his DNA, or the Ravens are just stupid.
Well, here's the facts. Eric DaCosta is a piece of garbage. We all understand that. That's what he really showed. And why would anybody want to go over there and play for the Ravens right now if Eric DaCosta is running that organization? And again, it goes back to Ozzie Newsome, who actually brought him in after he decided to step down. And he thought that Eric DaCosta was going to take this team to the next level. And he's done nothing since Ozzie Newsome has stepped down. And this was an absolute debacle because this guy is a superstar player. He's a game-changing pass rusher who can stop the run. He can do everything. And you decided to go after Trey Hendrickson because you would rather pay him, not give up draft picks. So you're going to go out there and throw this guy under the bus and say that his knees were not healthy. His knee wasn't healthy enough for you to sign him. It's just an absolute pathetic thing to do by an organization. The Ravens are a team now that I'd stay away from. If I'm a free agent, I do not want to play for that organization if Eric DaCosta is there. It's shameful. I've said it, and I'll say it again. I think Max Crosby is better off just staying with the Raiders right now and seeing what the Raiders are going to do in the draft, or are they going to move him before the draft to try to get something back for him and send him to an organization that he wants to go to? Because the Ravens are not the organization he should go to.
No, and you're losing a lot of reputation for other players, too, that want to stay there. And a lot of players that are already in the organization might be thinking the same thing if Eric DaCosta continues to treat players like this. And for a guy that's a GM, he's a guy that's supposed to be making salary cap and personnel decisions, not this type of like, we're going to treat you like this. Oh, you could come under these circumstances, and you're going to nitpick on everything and turn a Ravens organization that was very well respected into one of the organizations that, like you said, players want to avoid. This is not an organization that has an off-field issues either.
Have you ever heard the Baltimore Ravens ever as an organization you don't want to play for?
Yeah.
And now you have Eric DaCosta embarrassing his organization and himself on not giving Max Crosby an opportunity to speak to him one-on-one. When they met each other, they barely could look each other in the eye. Just think about that. How could you trust somebody you can't even look in the eye? Mm-hmm. My father always told me, when you meet somebody for the first time, you look him straight in the eye and shake his hand. DaCosta probably said, "Hey, here's my ass. Go kiss it." That's what he said.
Maybe it wasn't Harbaugh's fault over there in Ravenland over the years. Doesn't seem like it. So that makes me a little hopeful. Let's talk about some of the moves Harbaugh made before we finish this. They added Darnell Mooney at receiver, another kind of speedster, kind of similar. I was talking to Speedy about it earlier in the week. Similar to Slayton, but maybe a little bit better version of Slayton. Maybe what they wanted in the first place. And then they bring back Jason Pinnock to play safety, a hard-hitting safety. And for some reason, they started with Evan Neal, and now they're bringing back Josh Azudu. I don't really get it. Speedy, you're going to have to explain that one to me.
I'm not explaining anything about Azedu. I didn't like him when they drafted him. He was a reach in the third round. I thought he was like a day 3 pick. He never was a good pass blocking guard. I didn't want to bring it back at all by any means.
I will say this. I know you Giant fans think that John Harbaugh is going to get you 10 wins, 9 wins, because it comes from the Ravens organization. He's won a Super Bowl, and he's a successful coach. When you look at some of the acquisitions they have made this offseason, and I like Darnell Mooney. I think he's a good player. I watched him play for Atlanta. He was very good with Kirk Cousins, and he's a good punt returner. You can use him in the punt return. But none of these moves just excite me if I'm a Giant fan. So, I mean, sit back and relax and see what they do in the draft. But these are not exciting moves.
Pinnock is a versatile defender. He played well.
I know. He was drafted by the Jets.
Yes, I know. And our friend on Weapons Hot, Harrison Glazer, I think his name was, loved Pinnock at the time. Thought he was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, well, he was wrong about that.
Yeah, but he's still a good versatile defensive back. Not really set in one role, but I think he can play many different things. Mooney, again, his size has always been an issue, but he's a good deep threat. He definitely has better hands than Slayton does.
I mean,
breaks the press better.
They're going to put him in Robinson's spot, and they're going to hope that he is the blanket for a Dart. But I worry for Dart because it's all about developing this kid. And to me, I'll go back to it. If you're going to do all this, you bring in Mike McCarthy because that's the guy that finds guys doing the things that he wants them to do in his offense. John Harbaugh, he's more of a special teams defensive guy, and he's bringing in guys. He brought in 3 offensive coordinators to run his offense. It makes no sense. So, I mean, this is beginning to think that, or if you're a Giant fan, you're beginning to think that this could be a failure unless he adds talent in this year's draft. And I'm not trusting Joe Shane. I never trust Joe Shane. No.
Joey Bag of Donuts doesn't inspire confidence?
No. When he asked his son who he should draft, yes, I would be worried.
Let's hire that kid. Let's give him a contract. All right. Well, that's the whip around. We'll see you guys on it next time.
Very interesting with John Harbaugh. I know Giant fans are excited, and Speedy, we were speaking to some people yesterday. I had conversations on the football field that Giant fans were there, and they said they love John Harbaugh. If there's a coach that can go in there and take over the locker room like Tom Coughlin did, it's him, and that's why they're excited to have somebody like that the players are going to look up to and be able to go to because this guy's been successful in the league. But he's not Jim Harbaugh. I'm sorry. I know he won a Super Bowl against his brother, but Jim Harbaugh has been proven to win everywhere he's gone. John Harbaugh, he's only coached one place, and that's with the Ravens. Let's see if he can do it with an organization that hasn't won since 2011 and has been a joke of an organization, and now has an owner that could be losing his spot because he's hanging out at Epstein Island, So enough said on that. I had to mention that.
Yeah.
But Mr. Tisch is a little weird, if you know what I mean. So.
I hate to say it, but there was a photo of a young Uncle Stevie with a Mr. Epstein that came out as well, unfortunately, recently as well.
Very, very interesting. Maybe we should interview Uncle Stevie.
Maybe the Mets have to, if that's the case, maybe they have to go full Dolphins, just have a bunch of actors by the team at this point.
Well, we can hook you up with Uncle Stevie.
Oh, God. That's not going to happen either.
Anyways, we call this Dial It Up.
We interrupt this regularly scheduled hot mix to bring you an important news bulletin.
We got a big broadcast to do here. We're about to dial it up.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Dial It Up, everyone's favorite lightning round sports segment. Here we go right away into it. Errol hasn't seen these yet. Here we go with the first one. John Smoltz's World Baseball Classic commentary. If you were listening to Smoltz, you know he was talking a lot and maybe a little more than he should have. He kind of got into, I have a list of things here that he said during the WBC that were controversial. He got real dark talking about Paul Skeens, saying that he was basically bound to have Tommy John the way that he throws. He's just hoping that he can buck the trend of guys like him. Just very strange. He was being very inconsistent with his pitching philosophy. He was saying that, there's the high velocity pitching while simultaneously telling people to work later into games. Then he was saying that he was calling a pitch clock violation and saying it was absolutely inexcusable. But it just happens. He's going crazy about it. He hates modern hitting because everyone's trying to hit the ball high into the air. And thinks, and which we already talked about tonight, he also thinks we should do this in the middle of the season, not in the preseason. Errol, a lot of stuff here from John Smoltz, our Hall of Famer. Dial it up!
Oh, you scream in my ear every time you do that.
We need Goody back.
All right. The whole Paul Skeens thing, you can't bet on pitchers now with Tommy Johns. Everybody goes through it one way or another in their career, except guys like Max Scherzer. And then he had shoulder problems in the tail end of his career, and Max Scherzer hasn't been the same pitcher. But I don't argue with a pitcher like a guy like John Smoltz, who's been successful, a Hall of Famer. But who knows? Maybe he's smoking. Maybe he's drinking before he was doing the broadcast. What I will say is he's absolutely right about the WBC. It should be activated in the middle of the season. Nobody cares about the All-Star game. He is right. This is better competition. This will bring more money for the major leagues and ownership and some of these teams. I think it would make more sense every single year, every single 3 years to do this. Now, as far as all the other stuff that he said, it's just off target on any of the conversations that you ask John Smoltz in the middle of a broadcast to have. And when he's mentioning things that make no sense to the conversation, it has you thinking if he's doing something. Is he drinking? Is he smoking the ganja? Doing something, because some of the stuff that you're saying, Fish, doesn't make any sense in the conversation when you're analyzing the WBC and watching the game. That's my take on that.
Yeah, there's no real set exact formula for how to prevent these soft tissue injuries, these major pitching injuries that we've seen. It's the same kind of thing we talk about with the NBA. Like, is there load management?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but go talk to Bauer. I think he's figured it out. He's never had any of those problems. Him and his father are scientifically gifted in understanding statistics and understanding the right mathematical equation on how not to throw any of those balls when you're playing in a basketball game.
And maybe that's
in a baseball game.
And maybe that's the case. I don't know how many other pitchers have used that kind of thing yet, and we have enough of a sample to judge how this philosophy works versus another one. Obviously, there's certain teams that have gotten more injury issues than others, aka the Braves, aka the Reds, like we mentioned earlier, that have had more. But still, I don't think there's one exact formula. I mean, yeah, I do worry about it with Skeens, too, the way he throws, and it definitely is a worrisome guy for somebody.
Why are we worrying about that? His arm is healthy. Stop crying about it. Nobody cares. Let's see. We have seen Max Scherzer throw weird his whole career, and this guy for like 14 years was as dominant of a pitcher than anybody in baseball. He never had arm problems until the tail end of his career. When he went to the Mets, of course, when he went to the Mets, his shoulder started to go.
AKA the training staffs I worry about. Yeah, they put them on the list for
Stop bringing up Paul Skeens. I don't think it's going to make a difference. He's still fairly young. I still think he can pitch another 8 or 9 years before we even talk about the torque in his arms. I think it's ridiculous.
All right, let's head back to the rink, actually, and get to some hockey. And this one is golden. Well, there was a golden goal, but the puck has kind of become a controversial thing, Errol. So Jack Hughes really wants his puck back, which apparently was taken by the Hockey Hall of Fame, and demanded it back, kind of interestingly, and then had to backtrack his comments when he got shot down pretty harshly by the International Ice Hockey Federation. So the Hockey Hall of Fame's vice president and curator, Philip Pritchard, completely rejected him, saying that the puck was never Jack's to own and was a legal donation from the International Ice Hockey Federation, who took the puck after the game. Although that's generally not what, I don't know. Errol, you played hockey. You're going to get to talk about this in a second, what would happen in this situation. But here's what Hughes said. He wanted to give it to his father, who's a massive collector. Obviously, a family heirloom that you would want to have. Kind of makes a lot of sense. He thought him and Megan Keller, who scored the golden goal for the women to win their gold medal, should have been able to keep their pucks as opposed to it going to some stuffy building, which I couldn't even tell you where it is. I'm assuming somewhere in Canada.
Toronto,
yeah, right. Sidney Crosby, had his golden goal go to the Hockey Hall of Fame as well. Hughes has since said that he's pretty, he's happy that it's there and has backtracked his comments. I don't think he's so happy, Errol. Dial it up!
So I understand why Hughes should be upset. He's the one who scored the goal. And usually when you score a specific goal, if it's your 500th goal or your 600th goal or you score your 100th touchdown, Aaron Rodgers scored his 400th touchdown or whatever it was, he got the ball. So if he scores a goal like that because it's the Olympics and because it was so very important and the United States hasn't won an Olympic gold medal since 46 years ago in Miracle on Ice, they're going to take that puck and put it in Toronto. The United States won. Why is it going to Toronto? It's Canada. We're here in the United States. Why doesn't it go into a United States home or a United States place where people can get a chance to see it? Why do you have to go all the way to Toronto to see the golden goal puck? To me, it's despicable. I think, obviously, if I was Jack Hughes, and Jack Hughes did the right thing, he kind of rehashed it and reneged on it and stepped back, and he says, you know what, I'm happy that it's in Toronto, it's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and hopefully one day I'll be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. My jersey will be in the Hockey Hall of Fame with that puck. But if I was Jack Hughes, I wouldn't be happy about it. That's something that I did. That's something that I want to remember. That's something that I did for United States hockey, and I would be pissed off.
In baseball, when you hit the record home run, they give you the ball back, right? It's kind of like a courtesy.
In every sport. In basketball, Kobe Bryant, every time he scored 50 points, he took the ball home. And he's had a couple of 50-point games. So if anybody's seen Kobe Bryant's well, may he rest in peace, but when he did cribs, Kobe Bryant had all his balls that he scored 50 or more points in his basement that he had, set up where people could see it. And he signed it and he put the score of the game and how many points he scored in the game, how many rebounds. That's something that you want to remember for the rest of your life. And to take something like this away from the kid when he did something that nobody has done in 46 years for Team USA Hockey, to win a gold medal against Team Canada in overtime, and you were the guy that got your teeth knocked out in the third period, to me, it's despicable. Why don't they just keep his teeth? Here's my teeth. Here's my teeth. I'll take the puck. You could.
I guess they probably did keep the teeth, I don't think they put those back in.
I mean, I think he needs to go and look for his teeth.
Fish, I used to think Alex Ovechkin, the dentist, had the best job in the world. Now it might be Jack Hughes's.
Yeah.
Well, definitely the most famous tooth fixing job in the most recent memory. But I read the story, Errol, as the Canadians lost and then stole the puck. That's how I read this. Like, it's definitely going back to Canada in their Hall of Fame. I know it was going to be in Canada. Like, this was just like trying to throw some salt in the wound. And of course he should have reacted the way he did. I just think it's ridiculous. And then it's just, there's always some kind of technicality and some guy who enforces the rules who has to be a douche about it. And I encounter that sometimes in my job. I'm sure you and listeners at home have people they have to deal with in their jobs that are like this too. Jack Hughes got shut down just like all of us do sometimes.
I farted.
All right, let's go from puck
make me
not to that, but to the hard court where finally David Fizdale has decided to throw the Knicks completely under the bus for his failed tenure there. He says the Knicks gave him a tanking edict. All right, so here's the story. When he agreed to be on board as head coach of the Knicks, he said on FanDuel TV's Run It Back that he was told that he has to tank and they had to sacrifice wins to stockpile assets, and that they were assured of getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the offseason and were getting assets so that they could get either Zion Williamson or John Morant in the draft. If we remember correctly, that's the year they ended up with RJ Barrett in the draft. Fizdale ended up 21-83, trying to be a company man, as he put it, but it damaged his reputation and future employment prospects. He said he would have done it differently again if he had to, instead of cashing in his record for a cause that ultimately didn't work out. Dial it up.
Give me a break. Cry me a river. I am not going to cry about what happened to David Fizdale. And the fact here is, win or lose, he was never going to be the head coach of this team for a significant amount of time. He was never going to win. David Fizdale was just another guy that they leaned on over the years that failed to be a head coach with the New York Knicks. And again, Leon Rose eventually took over this team and he rebuilt the team the way he wanted to. There was no way Leon Rose was going to keep David Fizdale as his head coach. That's why he hired Tom Thibodeau. For him to cry about it and say that he was being a good team player and that the Knicks just threw away the games just because of assets, it's a crock. It's a crock. And even if it is true, why are you coming out and crying about it now? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Knicks fans only care about now, not what happened when you were there, you idiots. So I just think it's a joke. An absolute joke.
Yeah, it's NBA coaches' jobs disappear very easily from other franchises too. It's not just from tanking teams like the Knicks at the time or tanking teams now, like the Nets, obviously with Steve Nash. He hasn't got a head coaching job since then. Like, it's not all going to come to fruition just because, the team was trying to tank. No, NBA coaches get fired. I wouldn't say as much as NHL coaches, but fired where they don't get another coaching job again. And you're going to complain, because the Knicks were trying to tank. No, the Knicks had a directionless future. They finally tried to go young, and now you're trying to cry poor and saying that was the reason you lost your job and you haven't gotten another job since. If you're really that good of a coach, if you really had a good reputation in Memphis, why'd you lose your job there?
Speedy, he was never keeping the job. I don't know what he was thinking. What is he like? Is this like an imaginary thing? What is he, Peter Pan? And he's looking for Captain Hook or fairy dust? There was no way they were keeping that guy there. When they hired David Fizdale, my mouth dropped. How many coaches have they brought in year after year? All these guys, and they all failed. Derek Fisher, what a joke.
Oh, God.
Every time they brought in a coach, it made you think, do the Knicks actually know what they're doing? And then they finally brought in Leon Rose and Worldwide West, and they put an organization together that actually knows what they're doing. And there was no way they were keeping David Fizdale. Even if David Fizdale was winning, they were never keeping David Fizdale. The guy's an idiot. Find me a riff.
Well, now he's a talking head on podcasts too, so we get to hear from him, I guess, this one last time. Let's move on to a broadcasting legend, Bob Costas, who had some interesting things to say about baseball. He said that the Major League Baseball should use local announcers for national games. You should be able to hear your local broadcaster instead of having maybe these bland, not very good national broadcasts with no energy that we all rip all the time. So here's a couple of quotes from him. He says that the fans' connection's important. When people say, especially in baseball, I want to hear my own guys, as soon as they figure out how, they should be able to hear their own guys. This is what your team sounds like, and you want it to sound that way. And he said that, it feels like a stranger's voice during the most important games of the year, which is usually the games that go national. And then he cited Cleveland's Tom Hamilton, who's, high energy. It's perfect for him and his style, although it'd be weird on a national broadcast. You wouldn't put a guy like that national. But if you put a Cleveland game on every once in a while and you get to hear that, or if you're a fan of Cleveland and you get to hear your guy, I bet that would be preferable. It's a very interesting take from a guy who's been in this business for a very long time and is in the Hall of Fame for it. In fact, baseball is experimenting with it a little bit this year, where there's going to be some hybrid national local broadcasts. Errol, dial it up.
Here's the thing. I agree with a guy like Bob Costas. This guy has been a successful broadcaster for many, many years. Successful. He's in his 70s now. He's been in the business since he was in his 20s. So I respect what he has to say, and I understand what he's saying. Here's the thing. James Dolan complained with the NBA, with the new NBA deal, that his team cannot be on MSG for a significant amount of time because the NBA bought the rights to his team. And that's what he was complaining about. And that's why the NBA fined him and did all the things, because he was complaining about it. I own the team and I can't have him on my network. How does that make sense? So same thing with this. Now you're looking at the broadcast. My team, the Yankees, I want to hear my Yankee guys. I want to hear David Cohn. I want to hear the guys that actually know Yankee baseball. I don't want to hear some Joe Schmo talk about the Yankees when he's never even watched a Yankee game live at Yankee Stadium. I could care less what he says. I want to hear Michael Kay, even though Michael Kay, pisses me off sometimes. I want to hear those guys. That makes sense. So I agree with him. I think that Bob Costa is making some sense here, that if you're going to have them on ESPN, if you're playing on ESPN, get the Yankee broadcasters to be there for ESPN. If you have an Angels game and the Angels broadcasters are on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, then have the Angels announcers run and broadcast it there, and it'll be on ESPN. I don't want to hear some Joe Schmo that doesn't work with my organization or know the players of my organization. And that's why it's just such a horrible play-by-play. The last time I can remember ESPN's been good was when Aaron Boone and Alex Rodriguez was there. It's been bad. Alex is now working for Fox. Aaron Boone is the manager of the New York Yankees, and it's fallen off. But ESPN's paying everybody, paying the NFL, paying the NBA, paying the hockey, the NHL, and now paying baseball to be on their network. Why? Because it's owned by Disney. That is the problem right now. Buying ratings. That's the problem.
Like, why try to recreate a show on your own when there's ready-made shows for you in local markets that you can just pay for? I mean, Errol, we talk about it with our show here. We have a ready-made show that's excellent. Throw us on a network, and we're excellent there too. If you have great play-by-play broadcasters, like the Mets, for example, are constantly rated in the top of baseball with their broadcasts. I'd want to hear them if I'm a Mets fan over anyone else every single time. Every single time. I mean, Michael Kay, every once in a while we could use a break from. I'm not going to lie.
I hear Hernandez and Ron Darling. I would rather hear them than any of the garbage that they're going to throw at me. You think I want to hear AJ Przinsky? I mean, I don't want to hear that.
Hear John Smoltz?
John Smoltz with him drinking or whatever the hell he's doing, smoking his cigarette,
and bashing the Mets,
bashing every single team besides the Braves. I mean, that's the problem right now. Bob is right. Bob Costas is right. Bob Costas works with the Boston Red Sox, so he does a lot of their broadcasts. So Bob Costas, if it is on ESPN or it's on CBS or Fox, I'd rather hear Bob Costas calling a Red Sox game than some Joe Schmo I've never even heard of.
A lot too.
Who's some goofy guy who his father is or his uncle runs Fox Sports. That's why he's the broadcaster. That's why he's the analyst. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to enjoy watching it and listening to the game, not watching some guy say, call a strike or call a fly ball. It looks like it's gone, but it's caught.
Or call somebody the dream team.
Yeah, it's just something I don't. Well, that's a whole.
Or even if it's someone who does screw up things like that. We all know John Sterling screwed up everything for a long time.
That's great, John Sterling, and he was getting old, and he realized he was getting.
We still wanted to hear him anyway. To hear him.
He was great. I didn't care if he made any mistakes. It's John Sterling. I mean,
And I think that's the point, though, right?
if
Like
your
that's the
name's
point Costas
Will
makes.
Will Miami or Will Douche or whatever the hell his name is, or Donnie B. Bad or whatever the hell they call these guys. I've never heard of some of these guys. These broadcasters, you look at them, they're young, they're idiots, and they don't even know what the hell they're doing. I don't want to hear it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, maybe they got a lot of Twitter followers. Let's go to the last story. I know. Let's go to this last story of Dial It Up. And it is a doozy. Have you heard about the viral sensation of 15 beers? Oh, man. One of the hottest selling jerseys of all time, Errol. I don't know if you know about this, but Reagan Beers is the 6'4" center for the Oklahoma Sooners. She's a pretty good player. 61.5 field goal percentage, first in the SEC, 10.4 rebounds, first in the FCC, and leads in points per game. So averaged a double-double, one of two players this year to do that with over 2 assists. She's a 2,000-point, 1,000 rebound person, but nobody cares about that, Errol. They care that when you look at the back of her jersey, it says 15 beers, and every college kid in America apparently owns a 15 beers jersey in their frat or in their party house. She doesn't drink at all. She's a religious Catholic family, so she finds it really humorous and lucrative. She has started selling merchandise. Some of the things that she's selling currently include Here for Beers or I'm Just Here for the Beers shirts and all sorts of stuff. Go get some if you want to be here for the beers. Errol, any other jerseys that are random like this that you feel like are just must own that you have? Because I'm sure you have some interesting ones.
Dial it up. First of all, I don't drink, so I'm not going to be wearing a Beers jersey. It's cool that some of these frat parties and fraternities are going to go out there and buy a Beers jersey. That's cool. It really is. And it's good for her because she's making money. NIL companies are going to go to her because she's selling. She's becoming popular on social media. Her likes are going to be up. So it's great for her. So I'm happy for her that she is making money off of her last name. Here's the problem. And I'm speaking the truth. What is this teaching the kids? What is it teaching the kids? That's what I want to know. Oh, go drink 15 beers so you can be like Mrs. Beers. I don't get it. And that's the problem with professional and college sports now. I agree that these players should be making money off their names. I think these kids should advance their wealth in the future for their families. But the way it's going, it's only going to get worse. If my name is Dick, okay, or my last name is Snatch, well, what does that mean? Oh, 6 snatches. You know, what is that going to sell? That's going to sell? Well, hey, fraternity's going to wear my last name. My last name is Eleanor Snatch. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. That is what is selling because your last name. My last name is Marks. So if I had a skid in front of it, I'm going to wear a skid mark shirt. That's it. 15 skid marks. That's what it's ridiculous. You know, it doesn't matter what your last name is, but I'm happy for the girl. I'm really happy because she's making money. She probably never could imagine she's going to make that kind of NIL money that she's going to get. She's going to get a lot of money. The fact that she's becoming popular on social media because of her jersey sales. So it's great for her. It's just not good to try to sell to the young kids that are out there watching the game and want to be the next number 15 and with the last name Beers, buying that jersey because, hey, I want to get drunk. I want to get wasted. That's the only argument I have with it. It's bad for college sports and it's bad for a brand that is trying to build that Caitlin Clark has really helped build over the last couple of years.
Hey, all I'm going to say is that I don't know about you, but I'm looking right now. I'm about to buy myself a jersey. Hey, these are kind of cool. I kind of like the color design. I mean, I don't have too many basketball jerseys anyway, so why not get some 15 beers? But no, I get it to a certain extent or whatnot. I will say, though, however, certain people have been somewhat more aware of their jersey designs. I feel like here it's like you said, it's a frat party thing. It's in Oklahoma. It's a party college. You know, even for instance, when Austin Reeves had his jersey, he was number 15. So a whole bunch of students would call him AR-15. He realized, wait a minute, I don't like this. I don't like being called this. I don't think it's very appropriate or whatnot. So they kind of did away with it now. They still call him AR. They still call him number 15 or whatnot. But I would say they are somewhat.
Tyler, are you saying this is an Oklahoma student section problem?
No, but I will say, I will say some students are getting a little bit more aware of the situation or whatnot. But right now, I'm looking at how to buy myself one. It's on Lids right now. So, hey, I might go on and get one on Lids.
Ridiculous. This is what this kid is doing. He's going to go buy a number 15 beers because everybody in the world is doing it because they want to get drunk and wasted. So we got a 20-something-year-old kid now who is not at that age where you could say, oh, he can't drink, but he's just going to go out because, oh, they look nice. Oh, beers? I like to drink beer. Let me go out and buy a beers jersey. 15 beers. Yeah, great.
I liked your name, Eleanor Snatch. I thought that would be a great one as well. I've never heard that before. That was fantastic.
Listen, I mean, Eleanor just popped in my head, but think about it. I've seen this many, many times in professional sports. Oh, I like the color scheme. I like the name. Oh, I'm going to wear it. But now these kids, these idiot kids in college, oh, it's got beers, or it's got Snatch, or it's got Dickless, or it's Michael Dickless. There it is. I'm going to wear a Michael Dickless jersey. You know, it's just stupid. I guess it's funny. I guess it's going to sell. There it is. Eleanor Snatch. That's pretty good, actually. I'm getting run over.
Hold on. I'll put Michael Dickless in the back, too.
It doesn't make any sense. I understand why people think that this is something that's going to sell to the public, and maybe it will. I'm happy for Miss Beers. I hope she makes a living off of these jersey sales, and she gets NIL money. That's something that she's never thought to see. And she is a good basketball player, but nobody cares about her basketball. They care about her jersey sales. They care about her last name. And that is what's sad about this story. It's not about how great of a basketball player is. It's just how great her last name is and how much it could sell for herself. Sell for the fraternity or sell for whoever is buying it. So that's just my opinion to it. I just don't like it. Anyways, that's it for our show. Thank you to Juan Racon for joining us. He was fantastic. 10-year MLB reliever who's now retired after 2010. Played for the Twins, the Guardians, the Tigers, and Rockies. I remember when he pitched, he could never pitch well against the Yankees. The Yankees always killed him. Always. And he knew when I brought it up because that's where I remember him. When he played for the Twins, every time. And it didn't matter when he pitched against the Yankees. Yankee Stadium in Minnesota. The Yankees always killed him. Always killed him. So I remember that. But I really appreciate Juan for joining us. He was sensational. He gave us some good takes and a lot of things to cut up and look at and argue. Argue some of the things that he said too, because I disagree with him. Deferred money or not, there's no way you like that the Dodgers are buying players to win championships. I'm sorry, Juan. You're wrong about that. But I like you. And I would love to talk to you off air to get into that argument where we can go back and forth. I knew that we had a time limit to get this moving, but thank you to all the Spotify and Apple fans on video and obviously audio. We really appreciate all you guys tuning in and checking out our stuff and downloading and watching our stuff. So thank you to Spotify and Apple. Thank you to our TikTok fans, our Instagram fans, and our X fans, the Job in the Mouth. And just to make an announcement for all the fans out there, we are transitioning. Our show will be called it's going to be New York's Sports Loudmouth. Starting next week, it is going to transition. Quentin Copels will be joining us full time on Monday, so stay tuned. It's going to be a crazy one. We will not be on a football field, so it's not going to drain me. Guys, I just want to say something. For everybody out there that understands, when you go to an event and then have to come home and do a 3-hour show, it's definitely draining. Speedy was running around. I was in the cold. I had a lisp because when we came in, my whole jaw froze. That's how cold it was outside here, especially when the sun went down, whatever sun we had today. So it wasn't.
Yeah, we didn't have sun there.
Yeah, it got cold. Yeah. It got really cold on the football field. But we came back and we finished the show, and that's all we can do. And we made sure that there's content out there for everybody to check out during the weekend. But thank you to our YouTube fans. YouTube, New York. Well, it's Job in the Mouth, New York. It'll be New York Sports Loudmouth, New York, and New York Sports Loudmouth. It's going to be transition. Everything's going to be transition. So thank you to all the fans, our Reddit fans that are reading my stories, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows, all the different stuff that we have posting up. We're going to have merch up there soon, and you can check out all my stories. We really appreciate everybody going in and out of our website. Speedy, do we have anything lined up next week?
Not for Monday, but Thursday, our friend Dan Purcell will be returning to us. He said he wanted to come back on during March Madness. He couldn't join tonight, but he is going to be able to come on at 8:30 next week on Thursday.
Dan is one of the best in the business when it comes to studying, and he works with the NBA. He is one of the best at looking at data and looking at who's going to be good and in the future where these guys are going to be as NBA players, college players, and he is one of the best. So I'm excited to have him on. I'd love to hear his take on AJ and Peterson and Boozer and where he sees how the NBA is going to look at these guys as the top 3 prospects coming out of this year's draft. And is Wilson moving up even without playing in this tournament and breaking his finger? So, and I think he is moving up. I think he's as good as any one of these guys as well. So very, very interesting. Anyways, that's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your weekend. Stay out of trouble. And remember, go check us out on Spotify and Apple as we're posting it. And we're rocking it right now. 72nd, right? 72nd, 75th right now in the country and moving up. So keep on moving on up in the, on the east side, right? In the east side, on the west side, on the south side, the north side.